Today's interview takes place on July 14th, 2021, between Sergeant Keith Vidler and Sergeant Justin Wall from the Professional Standards Division. Sergeant Vidler is accused of harassing Jeremy Dewitte and arresting him without cause. The incident occurred on the side of the highway where Jeremy claims that Sergeant Vidler dragged him down the street by his helmet. After reviewing the body-worn camera footage, you can clearly see that Sergeant Vidler was removing his helmet to identify Jeremy and not dragging him down the highway. This is going to be a long one, so buckle up, folks. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Likes are free, I promise.
Alrighty. I'm Sergeant Justin Wall of the Orange County Sheriff's Office Professional Standards Section. Today's date is Wednesday, July 14th, 2021, and the current time is 1:48 p.m. This interview is being conducted at the Office of Professional Standards located at 2500 West Colonial Drive. I'm interviewing. Can you state your name and rank for me?
Yeah, Keith Vidler, Sergeant.
Who is employed by the Orange County Sheriff's Office and is currently assigned to...
I don't know where I'm at right now. Evidence, courthouse, something.
Previously assigned to Motors, the
Motors unit,
okay.
Yes.
Also present in the room, we'll go around the room, is Sergeant Michael Harmon of the Professional Standards Section.
Heidi Parker with Egan Levin Sawicka.
Jay Smith with FOP 93 representing Keith Vidler.
Okay. Sergeant Vidler, are you aware that I'm recording this interview?
Yes, I am.
Other than being compelled by Sheriff's Office policy to answer questions relating to conduct and employment, has anyone threatened, coerced, or offered you any preferential treatment to give this statement?
No.
Okay. I'm going to swear you in. I, Notary Public commissioned by the State of Florida, commission number CG 975310, expiring on April 1st, 2024, will place you under oath. Can you raise your right hand for me? State your name for the record.
Keith Vidler.
Under penalty of perjury, do you swear affirm the statement you are to provide regarding this internal investigation will be the truth?
I do.
Okay. Until the conclusion of this investigation, you are prohibited from communicating with anyone other than your legal counsel, other representative, or someone from the Professional Standards Section regarding the substance of this investigation or complaint.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
Okay. Are you under the influence of drugs or alcohol that may impair your testimony?
No.
Do you understand the internal investigation notification form that I asked you to sign prior to the interview?
Yes, I do.
All right. Were you given the opportunity to review the statements and evidence provided to you prior to this interview?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any questions regarding the evidence that you reviewed?
No.
Florida Statute 112.532 states all questions must come through from or through one investigator. Do you desire to waive this right?
No.
Okay. All right. We'll get started. So I got a long list of questions. Obviously, there was a lot of material
Yes.
that you guys went through. You took the last couple days
Yes.
since Monday,
Right.
to review everything. So there's a lot of different things to go through. So just bear with me. There's a lot of questions. What is your position and duties with the Sheriff's Office? Or let me rephrase it. On March 23rd of this year, what was your position and duties with the Sheriff's Office?
My position with the Sheriff's Office is a sergeant in the motor unit. I oversee the aggressive driving portion of the motor unit. Our duties are to enforce traffic violations, criminal violations. We were also, during that time, responsible for site security. We were responsible for site security at the testing center at the convention center, the vaccination center at the convention center, and we were also responsible for site security at all the spoke sites, the sites that were popping up giving the vaccines. During that day, that specific day, I was also one of the responsibilities that I had, I was assigned coordinator for 2 off-duty jobs for White Castle and for Bartello's. And part of being a coordinator for the off-duty, there was meetings, a lot of meetings with those restaurants to set up, they were newly opening up to set up traffic plans. So that specific day, and myself, Cal Wacker, and Reeves, we were actually meeting with the managers of those sites to go over the traffic pattern for traffic coming in.
Okay. All right. But your primary duties were as the sergeant in the motor unit. That was your...
Yeah, my primary duties,
okay.
And then as a sergeant, my duties are to supervise my guys to make sure they're, keeping all the reports up, all their stuff up. The normal duties of what a sergeant is in the agency, yes.
Okay. How long have you been employed in law enforcement?
September will be 33 years.
And has all of it been with the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, it has.
Okay. All right. I know, I don't know how long this may be, but just kind of give me a brief. What positions have you held in the agency?
Oh, geez. Well, when I started with the agency, I was in Sector 3 Patrol. I was on ERT, and then I went from there to narcotics. I was in narcotics, then I went to K-9. I was in K-9, I was on SWAT. I was in TAC. From there, I went to promoted to corporal, was corporal in TAC. I was in parcel interdiction. I was from parcel interdiction, I went to Sector 6 Patrol as a sergeant. I've been in West Orange Task Force as a sergeant in the task force. Was a motors cross trainer, then a Sector 4 sergeant, and then sergeant in motors.
Okay. I said that might be lengthy. I understand. What specific investigative experience?
Investigative experience throughout my career I was in narcotics for many years as a narcotics investigator, as a West Orange Task Force. Well, when I first got into narcotics, this back in, I can't remember, the early 90s, I was an investigator there. I was part of the Operation Cookie Monster, which was a big RICO case. And then throughout my career, parcel interdiction, there was investigations. And then as part of the West Orange Task Force, there was more investigations. I was jointly connected with DEA during a time, and we were part of a big RICO case with DEA involving a heroin company called The Company, which I ended up getting recognized by DEA as Officer of the Year for the investigation with DEA on that case. And then, as any deputy does throughout your career, even a patrol deputy investigates. When they have a crime, they investigate it. So, just because you're not assigned to an investigation unit, every deputy is an investigator in their own rights.
Okay. So primarily in narcotics, have you ever been assigned to the actual criminal investigations division in property, robbery, and those type of positions?
No, because I'm one that could never wear a shirt and tie.
Okay. All right. So did you conduct a traffic stop on March 23rd, 2021 on I-4 and subsequently arrest Mr. Dewitte?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Prior to the stop, what were you doing that day? I know you explained you were meeting for off-duty. What else? What was it specifically that you were doing that day?
So that day, took a 10A, do our normal aggressive driving. And when I say aggressive driving, what we try to tend to, and everybody has their own policies, I try to target people that are going at least 20, 25, 30 over speed. I don't target people that are going 15, 13 over speed. We're aggressive driving. We're looking for those ones that what I like to call professional speeders. They're the ones going down I-4, down the 408 Expressway, 429, and they're always looking for that cop car. And, they're hauling ass, and then, shit, I see the cop car. They slow down, they wait for the cop car to get off the expressway, and then they take off again. Those are the ones that I love targeting. We do very well at it. We a lot of our tickets, and when we always get one for the day, I'm like, I got a 126 today, and so that's the goal, to try to beat the 126. If somebody can, I got a 135.
Is that what you were doing that day?
So that day, I did that in the morning, but that morning we actually had a meeting with the managers from White Castle and Bartello's, and so we were down with them until I don't know how late we were, 9:30, 9 o'clock. I don't know exactly, but we were with them all morning. Myself, Reeves, and Lieutenant Wacker were down there.
Okay. So how did you come to be on I-4 at that time? You said you were working a detail. Was this all of Motors unit, or
We weren't working a detail that day.
or you said aggressive driving?
No, that's the unit I'm in.
Okay.
I'm the aggressive driving unit.
Okay.
So when we're out doing stuff, we target aggressive driving.
Okay.
So that day, so after we finished the meeting down there at Bartels and everything. We had, I want to say it was like an hour. I roughly forget time to kill. Before we always go motors, everybody knows we eat at 11 o'clock. Okay, we eat at 11 o'clock. So when I looked at the clock, Cal's there, Ree's there. I'm like, oh, we got a little bit of kill. Let's go grab some aggressive drivers on I-4. And what we do is we call it the loop. Let's run the loop. And Ree's like, all right, let's run the loop. And what we call the loop is that you'll go I-4, 408, 417, back to I-4, the 528. And we normally eat down in Sector 5 area, so you do the loop back.
Okay.
Or you go up I-4 to the 408, go across to the Florida Turnpike, come down the Florida Turnpike to I-4, and then down to the... So when we say let's go work the loop, that's what we're referring to.
So you were on I-4 at that point.
Yeah, we left and worked the loop, yes.
Were you actively searching for Mr. Dewitte?
Oh, no, not at all. I was. Matter of fact, I called Reeves and I said, hey, which way are you going? Because actually what I did is after the meeting with the Bartelos, I had to use the restroom. So I swung into the Hilton at the where we're doing the convention center testing. I used the restroom. And so then I came back out, and so I called Reeves and I said, hey, what loop are you running? And if I'm correctly, he said he was going to do the 417 loop. And I said, well, then I'm going to take the Turnpike loop.
All right. And did you have any previous information that Jeremy Dewitte was going to be on I-4 that day?
No, not at all. I wasn't.
Okay. So what got your attention about Mr. Dewitte?
When I was going up I-4, I'm running my front and rear radars, trying to look for those. On I-4 in that area, I start stopping people like 85, 90. And so I'm running radar. I pass the sheriff's office. I remember looking at at our motors office and just cruising along. And I want to say it was in the area of the trail or what would be Michigan, trail in Michigan. As I'm going up I-4 eastbound, all of a sudden I saw 2 Metro State motorcycles merging on to I-4.
Were you stationary or were you moving?
Oh, I'm stationary.
On I-4?
Or I'm moving. You can't be stationary in that area. There's nowhere. It's all under construction. And in that area, I would never be stationary.
Okay, and so I-4 and OBT?
Yeah, it was. I think I had just passed OBT, and I want to say it was like Michigan is where I saw the 2 bikes. I saw, as I'm driving, I saw them merging on into the merge lane.
From Michigan?
I think it was Michigan. I'm not sure. It might have been OBT.
Okay. So were they driving aggressively? I mean, were they speeding? What?
No. I just recognized the Metro State bikes.
Okay. So what drew your attention to Metro State? Why'd you ultimately conduct a traffic stop?
Well, what happened is I saw them merging on. I saw the 2 riders, and I saw that they were dressed out in uniform, dressed out in their gun belts, everything. Through my previous investigation, and we know that a lot of the Metro State employees openly carry firearms. I've arrested them for it. Okay, so when I saw these 2 come on,
How many times?
I've arrested him one time. Randall Brackus, I believe. Randall Brackus, I arrested him for openly carrying a firearm.
Any others?
No. So when I saw them, I'm like, okay, let me ride up here and see what's going on. So as they're in front of me, like I said, I pulled up and I saw their uniforms. I saw the riders, and I immediately, the one guy didn't have a gun in his holster, and I immediately looked at the other guy, and he had clearly a Glock in his holster.
And so was that your probable cause?
100%, yes.
Okay. So what did you do next?
So I came up. I remember calling Reeves and saying, "Hey, where are you at? I got Metro State up here." And Reeves says, "I'm on I-4 right here." I said, "Okay, you're right behind me." I said, "I'm here at whatever." Okay. Because the standing policy, and I know Wagger said it, and it's actually true, the standing order is any time you deal with Metro State, you must have another deputy with you. Because of all the allegations, 2019, it's been a standard. They run their mouth, they make false allegations. So it's always
Where did
been...
that order come from?
That's been a standing order that I've known from a long time. Matter of fact, we've worked the Citrus Bowl. Matter of fact, I remember a case in the Citrus Bowl where they came through and Carl Santiago, I believe, stopped him. And he's like, hey, I need a backup, that's standing order. You know, it's just one of those things that is common in the motor unit. If you encounter Metro State, you need a backup.
Do you remember who specifically said it?
No, it's just been a common thing that's been said, yes.
Okay, so so you call Reeves.
Oh, so I call Reeves. I said, hey, I got Metro State here. I said, one of the guys is actually carrying a Glock. I said, you can see it, it's a Glock. And he goes, well, is it Jeremy? And I go, no, I don't think it's Jeremy. And the reason I said that is because Jeremy, first of all, we've always known that the yellow highlighter uniforms, this is through our investigation, were always for trainees. Only the trainees wore yellow shirts, okay? So when I saw the 2 yellow shirts, I immediately assumed it was 2 trainees riding the motorcycles. And then the other thing that threw me off was the shirt is real baggy. I mean, the person that was in what we call rider position 1, which ended up being Jeremy, the shirt was so baggy. And Jeremy never wears anything baggy. He's a Lance Carlson. You know, he tight shirts, everything's tight on Jeremy. Okay. So it really threw me off. Like I said, I saw the yellow shirt, threw me off, and I even remember telling Reeves, I said, I don't think it's Jeremy, but whoever it is clearly carrying a Glock on his gun belt, and Metro State is not a securities company, so they cannot carry that Glock.
Okay, so that's your probable cause for the stop. Upon making the stop, then they come to a stop. You immediately draw your firearm like a felony stop.
Right.
Why?
So what happened when we pulled over? I started to call the stop in. I got him pulled over, calling the stop in, and I noticed immediately Jeremy unasked the bike quick. I mean, you even watch the video. He jumps off and spins, and I see that. I see all the medals on his shirt. Okay. Immediately when I saw all the medals is immediately when I knew it was Jeremy, because Jeremy only wears medals. He's the only one in the company that wears medals. Okay, and it's funny what you say. The medal that stuck out to me, the biggest medal that stuck out to me, was his military medal, marksman's medal, and immediately Jeremy's the only one that wears that. Jeremy's the only one that wears medals, and he always wears that military marksman's medal that says he's an expert at pistol, he's an expert at shotgun. Okay. And so that's exactly what I saw. Okay. So as soon as I saw it was Jeremy, in my mind I'm going, he's carrying a Glock. And he's made death threats to have me killed. Our intel has those. There was death threats he was going to have me killed before Christmas, and so I wasn't playing games now. He's carrying a Glock. He's threatened to kill me. I unasked the car, and I'm like, and that's what I said. I said, Jeremy, do not reach for that firearm.
I know that. Have you seen the bulletins that were put out by the officer safety bulletins?
Yes.
Put out?
Yes.
Were those specific to you, or were those specific to law enforcement?
Those were put out in 2019 when we were doing the investigation. We got a tip that Jeremy knew we were investigating him, and that he's not going back to prison, that he's going to go out in a blaze of glory. So I believe.
Did you put those out?
No, I believe Sandy Carpenter did. I don't know who put them out, but yes, I'm familiar with those bulletins. Okay. But the death threats for me personally came after.
Okay, how did you learn about that?
I actually it was right before Christmas, I got a phone call from our intel and said, hey Keith, I don't want to alarm you, but we've received information that Jeremy's going to threaten to have you killed before Christmas. I forget what he said. He said something, but he said, we've notified Lake County. Lake County's going to be patrolling your house, which they did. They did a great job. They were constantly patrolling our house.
Was this Christmas of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. So about 3.5 months prior to the stop?
Yes.
All right. So you recognize it's Jeremy by the medals?
Yeah, absolutely. He's the only one that wears medals.
Okay. You've met Jeremy numerous occasions, right? Is
Yes.
it fair to say that there's a past between you guys? I mean, you know each other
Oh, I've known
Very-
Yes, I've had dealings with Jeremy since I want to say I was a corporal in Sector 3,
Okay.
2011 or 12, I think. So yes, I know.
There's a past.
Yes.
So initially, if you watched Mr. DeWitte's body camera or his helmet camera, you yell out, "Jeremy, don't go for that firearm." It's the first thing you yell,
Right.
and it's because you recognized him at that point.
Oh, as soon as he spun and I
So-
saw the medals, absolutely.
So later on, though, when you're removing his helmet, you'd say, "I need to remove your helmet to identify you."
Yeah.
What was the? I mean, which one is it? You knew who he was.
Oh, it was
You didn't?
both. I was just talking because he's running his mouth. He runs his mouth, and I'm just. He's like, "Why are you taking my helmet off?" Well, because I need to get your face on my camera. Basically, was what it is. You're not going to jail with your helmet on. So he's got his helmet on. I take it off. Yeah, because now I take it off, and it confirms on body camera that I was correct. It is Jeremy. Here's his face for people that don't know who he is, doesn't know his voice.
Okay.
Okay, now they can clearly see, yeah, it was Jeremy. Vidler was correct when he called him out.
Your demeanor was pretty aggressive towards Jeremy.
Oh, yes.
On the stop. I mean, is that how you conduct every traffic stop?
No. What it is through our investigation, we have learned that Jeremy, and Jeremy can tell you this because I've told him this many times, I wished he wasn't a convicted felon. I wished he wasn't a registered sex offender, because he would be the perfect person to come into the sheriff's office and teach people command presence. Because I've reviewed hundreds of hours of videos of him, and he controls the deputies. He controls every traffic stop that he's ever been stopped on. He controls. And he does it through very forceful intimidation demeanor. I can show you, and I'm sure you've watched the Tampa PD case, where he's in Tampa and he totally dominated those two Tampa PD females to where he demands, I need your supervisor. They call the supervisor, and the supervisor comes in and apologizes to Jeremy. They had PC to arrest him all day for impersonating law enforcement, but he totally baffled them and controlled the situation. He always does that. So I've always known since the investigation, since all of these videos we're viewing, is anybody comes in contact with him, and I've told deputies this, you have to control him immediately. Do not let him control you. Do not let him control that situation.
Okay, so that's not how you conduct every stop, is what you're saying?
Oh, no.
Because of who it was and your
You
knowledge of
have to do that, yes.
it? Okay.
And matter of fact, if you see that video, if you go back to my blue jacket video with him, you'll see me. Jeremy starts trying to control the scene. And I tell Jeremy, you're going to shut up. I'm in control here, not you. Yes, Sergeant. He backs down and I'm able to control the scene. You have to do that with Jeremy.
Do you think you were unprofessional in any way on that traffic stop?
No, not at all. No, absolutely not.
All right, I want to go to the next thing. Are citizens allowed to record police encounters on a traffic stop?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Did you turn off Jeremy's helmet camera?
Yes, because he was under arrest.
Okay. You turned it off because he was under arrest?
Yes.
I know he was he was was he in handcuffs at that point?
Yeah, he was already in
Right
handcuffs.
after?
Yeah, he was
So,
already in handcuffs, yes.
Had you told him he was under arrest at that point, or did you?
I don't remember this. The problem with the I-4, it was so loud, so much going on up there, so much traffic. I don't know if I told him he was under arrest at that time. I don't remember.
So you're saying in your mind he was under arrest?
Yes, 100%, yes.
Okay. When he asked you, why are you turning off the camera? You said, because I'm dictating this.
Right,
this
because
stop,
what
not
he's
you.
trying.
Why did you say that?
Right. Because if you notice in all his other videos, like I can say, he tries to dictate. No, you're not going to tell me how to run my traffic stop, Jeremy. You're under arrest. I'm turning your body camera off. This is what's going to happen, Jeremy. You're not controlling this traffic stop.
Okay. And just to be clear, I mean, was he detained at that point, or was he?
No.
arrest?
As soon as I pulled that magazine out, and we'll go through that, he's under arrest.
Okay. And therefore, that's the reason why you turned the camera on.
100%, absolutely.
All right. So speaking of taking the weapon out and looking at the holster, you took the weapon out, right, of the holster?
Yes, I did.
and examined it? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So at what point did you realize it was not a firearm?
Oh, I didn't realize it was a firearm until I actually removed the magazine from the holster, or from the weapon, and saw that it was a pepper ball gun magazine. It wasn't a like a magazine we carry for our Glocks.
Was it loaded?
No.
So is that the point where you realized what it was?
That's the point when I realized, okay, this is a pepper ball gun.
Okay. Did it look like a real firearm prior to that?
Oh, absolutely. I swore it was a Glock.
All right. So had you researched the charge of carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon before?
Yes, I have.
There's some particulars about that statute that are kind of specific. I mean, everybody knows carrying concealed firearm, right? That's an easy one.
Correct.
Carrying concealed weapon is a little more by convicted felon anyway.
Correct.
They can carry this. They can't carry this. It's a little more in depth.
Correct.
So had you researched that prior?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Did you look up any case law regarding that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Let me just keep going. In your career, have you made an arrest for carrying concealed weapon?
Yes, I have.
Or not a firearm?
A concealed weapon.
A
Yes.
concealed
Yes.
weapon by a convicted felon.
By convicted, my career of 33 years, I can't recall.
Okay.
But I mean, I've made thousands of arrests, especially through my career, especially being a narcotics agent. K-9, we specialized in going after felons. So yeah, I probably have. To say yes, I did. It's this guy. I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Had you researched the jury instructions prior to the stop? The jury instructions for this charge?
Yes.
Prior to the stop?
Yes.
Okay. So, why did you do all that?
Okay. Well, back when we started this case, as you got time?
I'll just ask specifically the reason I'm asking.
Okay,
because it looks like it appears that obviously you believed it was a firearm when you pulled him over, and so then immediately upon realizing it's not a firearm, at least in watching the video, you immediately say you're under arrest for carrying a concealed weapon. That just seems very premeditated.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So to speak.
Okay. Yes.
As if I've already researched this and determined if it's not a firearm, then I'm going to arrest him for
Correct.
this.
I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay.
That's where my so
Okay.
so why had you
Okay. So
researched
let me explain that. So back in 2019, when Major Dewitte, myself, Sandy Carpenter, and Austin Moore had a meeting, and I can give you the exact date you want. It was it was 3 days after the Deputy Mahoney case, I believe, the incident. Austin Moore, everybody, we met. They want to know who this Jeremy Dewitte guy was. What's this Metro State thing?
And I'm sorry, when was this?
This was
What year?
2019.
Okay.
So we met. I explained to them what's occurring, what state statute is 316/1974, what it allows a funeral escort company to do. The reason Jeremy has been able to get away with this for 10 years is because law enforcement in general is naive, uneducated about statute 316/1974. It's a specific statute. You really have
So I just want to be clear because I don't want to. I know you said how much time you got.
Yeah.
I'm asking specifically about the charge of carrying concealed weapon.
Well, okay, so let me fast forward then. So basically what happened was Austin Moore told me back in 2019 we need to research every single statute we can find to put on this guy to shut him down. I've got an email in right after the Windermere case from Austin Moore to, I believe, I got to pull it up here, where he said that it's great to see that Windermere arrested him. Hopefully this will keep him off the street before he kills somebody. So Austin Moore even knows that this guy is a threat to our community. He's going to kill somebody. So I researched a bunch of statutes, and with the Deputy Mahoney case, I researched this statute here. It's called Persons Engaged in Criminal Offense Having Weapons. So I've been Austin Moore, myself.
What's the statute number?
Here.
Okay.
So Austin Moore, myself, Steve Miller, we all had discussions about this. I actually was going to charge Jeremy with this case involving Deputy Mahoney and Mr. Howard. Austin Moore says you have no probable cause for that charge. It doesn't apply. Da da da. Second, and I said, well, then whatever. So move forward. So I started looking at some research. I had inquired with Austin Moore about Jeremy carrying a pepperball gun because we were looking at a lot of different things. And I vaguely remember him saying something he got with, like you said in here, I don't, but basically that people are allowed to carry pepperball guns. He said he spoke to the state attorney, and that's what they're saying. So the mindset of the whole motor unit during this whole investigation is, well, I guess Metro State is allowed to carry pepperball guns. You know, people never really made sense because you're telling me anybody can get a pepperball gun like Jeremy, put it on their side, and walk around town? Never really made sense. But anyways, so fast forward, and to save time, I'm going to fast forward. And I know during the interview of all the materials, I kept referring to the Dr. Phil video. Okay, that's what triggered the light on me. Okay, I knew of the John Allen interview back because we have it where Jeremy goes, yeah, it looks like a real gun. Nobody can tell it's a pepperball gun. So we knew all that. But it wasn't until the Dr. Phil show that the light turned on to me, and I was like, holy shit. When Dr. Phil, and if you want to play it, when Dr. Phil talks to Jeremy about this gun, Dr. Phil shows him, he goes, if you're doing everything, and I'm paraphrasing, by the way, if you're doing everything to not look like a cop, why are you carrying a gun that looks like a cop? It's a pepperball gun, but they make pepperball guns, and Dr. Phil holds like a yellow one up or whatever. Why don't you carry one like this? And Jeremy's like, well, it wouldn't matter because nobody could tell what it is anyways in the holster. And then it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute, I got to research those statutes again. I really do, because something's not making sense here. Somebody cannot just go down the road carrying a pepperball gun that looks like a gun.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this. So what I did is I went back to state statute of openly carrying a weapon. Okay. I'm going to put my glasses on here. So I pulled this statute up, and it says, openly carrying of weapons, except as otherwise provided by law, in subsection 2, which is down here, it is unlawful for any person to openly carry on or about his person any firearm or electronic weapon or device. It is not a violation of this subsection for a person licensed to carry a concealed weapon, which Jeremy isn't, okay, because he's a convicted felon, carrying a firearm. You go to subsection 2. A person may openly carry for the purpose of lawful defense, a self-defense chemical spray, okay, which we carry, okay, it's a spray. Mm-hmm. A non-lethal stun gun or dart firing stun gun or non-lethal electronic weapon or device that is designed solely for defense purposes. So I started reading that again, and I'm like, there's nothing in the statute that allows somebody to openly carry a pepperball gun. He can carry a spray.
But just to be clear, Mr. Dewitte was arrested for not that charge.
Well, yeah, let me go on.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I was getting there. So I kept reading this over and over again, and I'm like, well, time out. Austin Moore has erred when he said that he's telling all of us that anybody can openly carry a pepperball gun. No, you can't. You can't. It's right here. You can't. So then what I did is I went back to the statutes and I looked up the definitions. So what I did is I looked up a definition of tear gas gun, which is what he carries. It shoots out a chemical. Then I looked up this here where it says, let me see here. Electronic weapon or device, thinking, well, they're going to say that a device, his pepperball gun is a device. Well, this is specific, and when I found the definition, it's exactly what it says. It says electronic weapon or device means a device which, through the application of use of electronic current, is designed, redesigned, used, or intended to be used for offensive or defensive purposes. So that doesn't even apply to Jeremy's pepperball gun. So then when I went to say concealed, a concealed weapon, it talks about the tear gas gun. And then it talks about concealed weapon from ordinary sight of another person. And I'm looking at it going, the ordinary sight. So when I pull up ordinary sight of another person, it clearly talks about how the ordinary sight of another person, you go to carrying a concealed weapon, because that's what I went to, and you pull up the carrying concealed weapons, and it talks about, it's a violation if the carrying a concealed weapon, the state must prove these elements, that the defendant known that he had it, which Jeremy does, that the weapon was concealed from ordinary sight of another person. Okay, and then it says the term on or about, and then it says the term ordinary sight of another person means the casual or ordinary observation of another sight association of life. The weapon need not be completely hidden for you to find that it was concealed. However, the weapon is not concealed if, although fully exposed, its status as a weapon is detectable by ordinary sight. It never has been. The ordinary sight of that weapon, everybody, to include experts in the sheriff's office, says that's a Glock. That's a SIG.
Okay. All right. So I understand what you presented here. I just want to be clear. So reading this one does not apply, is what you're saying.
No, that does apply.
Because this is specific to firearms.
So in other words, what I could have done is I could have charged Jeremy with a misdemeanor crime of carrying a weapon, carrying a pepper ball gun.
Okay.
Because it does not fall in the category of what you're allowed to openly carry.
A self-defense chemical spray, you're saying does not qualify?
Oh, no. Look at the definition.
Okay.
So if you look at what a chemical spray is, a self-defense chemical spray means a device carried solely for the purpose of lawful defense that is compact in size, designed to be carried on or about a person, contains no more than 2 ounces of chemical. It is a spray, not a tear gas gun. It's not a gun. It's a spray.
Okay, but he was not charged with this. He was charged
No, because this is only a misdemeanor.
Okay. So you charged him with the...
Right, so what I did is
and you reviewed that.
I had reviewed this before, that because the Dr. Phil showed that as a convicted felon, he cannot openly carry any weapon except as a convicted felon. Okay, except he's allowed to carry his pepper spray, and he's allowed to carry a non-lethal stun gun, or those little stun guns, or a starting device. Okay, but in carrying these, we must be able to readily identify it. Okay, so when he's carrying his pepper spray, we have to look and say, oh yeah, that's pepper spray. Okay, but he cannot whatsoever carry a pepper ball gun. Okay, which is a misdemeanor, and then in doing so commit a crime. By concealing the fact that it's a pepper ball gun, he's committing a felony crime.
Okay, so I want to break this down just a little bit. So you brought up the statute and the jury instructions.
Right.
Okay. As far as the jury instructions go.
Yes.
Let me take a look at that real quick. Do you have the definitions?
Yes, the definitions, yeah, right here.
So I understand everything you're saying, okay? However, I think it's the definitions that are in the jury instructions. Do you have that? I'm looking for This is the jury instructions of carrying a concealed weapon. There it is. Okay. So the term ordinary sight of another person.
Correct.
Okay. And which is highlighted here, right?
Correct.
So the weapon was concealed from the ordinary sight of another person.
Correct.
Okay. Means the casual and ordinary observation of another in the normal associations of life. A weapon need not be completely hidden for you to find that it is concealed.
Correct.
However, a weapon is not concealed
Yep.
if, although not fully exposed,
Correct.
its status as a weapon is detectable by ordinary observation.
Correct.
So let me ask you this.
Okay.
When you look at what is in his holster, he's wearing a uniform, a duty belt, and you look at what is in his holster. Does a reasonable person believe that it's a weapon?
No. They believe it's a firearm. Florida state statute.
Which is a weapon.
No.
Which,
you got to go based on what Florida state statute and the definitions of Florida state statute clearly defines the difference between a firearm and a weapon. Nobody, not a single firearm experts in our agency, look at that and go, that's a pepper ball gun.
So whenever I say the word weapon, I mean a weapon of some kind. A firearm is by definition a weapon, right? It is a weapon.
No, a firearm, right? But you go through.
What I'm saying is, the average person will look at that and readily identify it as a weapon.
No, as a firearm.
But
as a firearm.
Okay. Here, as a firearm or a weapon.
No, you can't intermingle these.
No, it's not intermingled. As a weapon.
Okay, as a weapon. Right. It must be concealed, although fully exposed, its status as a weapon. You must be able to define the status of a weapon. And when you read the case law with this, which I provided you with this, and this is just curious, which is really unique about the case law. Okay, I'm giving you all this. There's case law. So down here dealing with this, and if you look at this case, I find it really interesting because it said that over a century ago, the prohibition against carrying concealed weapons is designed to prevent a person with a weapon from taking undue advantage over an unsuspecting adversary who is not aware that the person is carrying a weapon. Now, part of my case against Jeremy for carrying a concealed weapon was the Deputy Mahoney case and the Mr. Howard case. Because in both of those cases, Jeremy Dewitte placed his hand on his handgun in an attempt to pull it out in a threatening manner. Okay, and this is all part of the thing. Deputy Mahoney states, when we told him it was a pepper ball gun, not a firearm, because Deputy Mahoney's own statement is he would have gotten out and arrested him, okay, but he didn't want to get in a gunfight. Okay, when we told Deputy Mahoney it's just a pepper ball gun, he goes, if I'd known it was a pepper ball gun, I'd have jumped out and beat his ass. Same with Mr. Howell. When Mr. Howell said he sped off to the right, okay, because he thought Jeremy was going to start shooting rounds through his window. Mm-hmm. When we told Mr. Howell that it was just a pepper ball gun, he goes, if I'd known it was a pepper ball gun, I'd have just drove straight through, okay? Which this here supports 100% my statement that you must be
I'll take a look at this. I'm not familiar with it, so I can't speak on it. This case law, so I will take a look at it and
yes,
and get back with you.
But you must be able to identify it as a weapon, not as a firearm, as a weapon.
Okay. Would the average person believe that it is either a firearm or a weapon of some kind?
No. The average person is going to believe it's a firearm, not a weapon. State statute clearly defines the definition between a weapon and a firearm. Mm-hmm. Clearly defines.
I'm with you there. But the average person is going to believe that it is. Let me ask you this: Is the way Mr. DeWitt was wearing his gun belt, is that similar to the way we wear our gun belts?
Mirrors law enforcement.
Okay, so it looked exactly like what any patrol deputy on the street right now has on.
100%.
So the object that was in the holster, that you could see it.
Correct.
Okay, so that the object itself is not concealed.
Not totally concealed. Not totally hidden out of sight. Correct.
Okay, so you can see the object itself.
Yes.
And a reasonable person would believe, you're testifying that a reasonable person would believe it's a firearm.
It's a firearm.
Okay.
And because of what you're saying, let's go based right on what you're saying. You're saying what we carry. When a person looks at us going down the road, okay? When a person looks at us going down the road riding our motorcycles just like Jeremy Dewitte did, okay? Would a person look at me in uniform and go, oh, why? Why is he carrying a pepper ball gun? A weapon.
But that's not what's on of contention here, right? So what's of contention is the object concealed? I think we both agree the object is not concealed, right?
The object is not concealed, but the weapon is concealed because it's not identified as a weapon. Everybody identifies it as a firearm.
Okay. But its status...
Its status as a weapon
is
not detectable. Its status as a firearm is detectable at the time. Just like I said, I swore it was a Glock.
Okay.
I couldn't tell it was a Glock. Now,
But it is being openly. The object is being openly carried. Correct.
No. The item that he has in his gun belt is being openly carried.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
The
semi-openly
object
carried. Okay, semi-openly carried. The holster, it's in the holster, so the back of it would lead a person to believe that it's just a firearm in a firearm holster.
itself. Okay. Do you believe that was the intent of the law when, I mean, that this would be? Let me ask you this: have you found any case law that is specific to these circumstances?
Okay, so when I researched everything, as we did back in 2019, we couldn't really find any case law. All the case law is dealing with concealed firearms. That's pretty much it. So what I had to do under the Jeeremy instructions is I went and read all the, let me my stuff here, and I'll give you a copy of this. One of the key things, and again, where is it here? I'm putting it out. And I believe it's state. I believe it's in Eisner versus State. The question of concealment, the Florida Supreme Court ruled, is not a question for you and I, like we're debating right here. It's not a question for state attorney. It's a jury question. It is a question that needs to go in front of a jury. A jury needs to make the decision if they said, yeah, if I see this, okay, if the jury is given this photo, a jury, as would be stated in court, can clearly say that's a pepperball gun. That's a weapon, as defined in Florida state statute. Okay? No. They would clearly say that's a firearm, not as a pepperball gun. That's a jury question. On whether concealment is a jury question. It's not a question for you or I.
So you don't have any case law that supports these circumstances?
I have the case law that's listed in the jury instructions for carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon.
Okay.
Yes, and I've given that to you guys.
Okay. All right.
And go ahead, let me clarify something here on the tape real quick. Don't get me my voice raising as I'm mad at you guys. Everybody knows me. I'm just passionate, and so when I talk, I get like that. That's just me.
It's on.
I understand what you're saying. However, I think it's sort of a existential idea of the word concealed, which I think is you're saying that what it is concealed.
Correct, and that's per state statute. A reasonable person driving down I-4, per the jury instructions, when you drive down I-4, okay, you're driving down I-4.
I understand what you're saying about what it is concealed.
Yeah, right, because a person must be able to say that's a thing. Now, with that said, and like I said, Dr. Phil really made me research it. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, what I'm saying is that the idea of what it is concealed. The statute, as it's on its face value, would you agree that it is overwhelmingly, the majority of the time, the intent of it is for an object that is concealed, right? So an object is concealed from the sight of law enforcement, and the object itself, which is a danger to law enforcement, right? That's the reason why the statute, or a danger to anybody, and danger to the public, right? You can't walk around with a concealed weapon without a permit or having some type of legal authority to carry it, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the reason for the statute, the reason that statute exists is because of the dangers that a concealed weapon present. Somebody could conceal a weapon to go into a school. Somebody could conceal a weapon when they unlawfully can't carry a weapon. They can conceal it. That's the intent of the law, right?
We don't know. What was the intent?
So
that's your opinion of the intent.
But I said a second ago that that's the overwhelming majority of those arrests, right? Are are for that the object itself is concealed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree that the arrest, that because we couldn't readily identify the object as what it was. In other words, if you arrest somebody for carrying a concealed firearm because they had it in their waistband, number one, did you have a weapons permit? No, so you're in violation there. Number two is it wasn't readily identifiable, as the jury instructions said, as a
From the ordinary sight.
From the ordinary sight, correct. So yes, then we would make the arrest.
In this case, the ordinary sight, I can see.
Right. So to
Jeremy
give you an
Dewitte's
example
object.
is Randall Brackus, I just charged with openly carrying a weapon or firearm because I could see it. I could see it was a firearm. He did not have authority to carry that firearm.
Okay. All right. I think we've kind of gone over all of these, and I'll take
Okay.
these statutes that I don't already have, and I'll take and review them. And I have your testimony now as to your mindset when it comes to this. I understand. Would you agree that, according to our legal bulletins, once you no longer have probable cause to continue to detain somebody, you should release them, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's why, like Mr. Adrian Hernandez, I don't even know why he did what he. I was dealing with Jeremy, but he just followed the instructions.
Okay, but once
I knew there was no reason to even have Hernandez. I was like, hey, dude, you can go. I don't have anything on you.
All right. I know we kind of touched about this, but I want to get specific. Have you ever sought legal advice about whether or not carrying a pepper ball weapon in a holster was illegal or an arrestable offense? And from who?
Yes.
We already know you did.
Yeah, like I said.
From who?
Yeah, like I said earlier, when Sandy, and I can't give you the date. It was Sandy took over the unit in February of 2019, February, March, I don't know exactly when. Sandy called me, gave me the update about what he saw, and I told him, yeah, that's that company that we were told to leave alone. We weren't allowed to do anything. Well, who told you that? Krantz told us that.
Specific legal advice,
right?
Though, from legal.
Okay, so yes.
From legal entities.
Yeah, so what I did is I emailed, I believe, Austin Moore and said, are you allowed to openly carry a pepper ball gun? Okay, and Austin Moore replied back to me, yes, yeah, you're allowed to openly carry a pepper ball gun.
Okay, was there anyone else that you inquired about? State attorneys?
Well, as I said earlier, yes, Steve Miller, myself, and John Ramsey, we were working jointly hand in hand with this whole case, and I was going through a bunch of cases, and the weapons charge, like I said, that we were really trying to charge. Well, this is what happened. So we were looking at. Austin Moore said I had no probable cause to charge Jeremy with that one. Did I give that to you? With the about openly carrying a weapon or something, or carrying a weapon during a commission of a crime, something like that. So we've been all going back and forth on that charge. Oh, persons engaged in criminal offense having weapons.
Okay.
Okay, so Austin Moore told me there's no PC to charge him with that. You don't have any PC. So we were going back and forth, and I said, well, what about, and I explained it to Stephen Miller. I said, what about in the case with, and we were dealing with the Deputy Mahoney case, and I got with Steve Miller and I said, hey, what if we charge him with carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon? Because Deputy Mahoney's testimony is he had no clue that that was a weapon. He identified it as a firearm. He even states, and even his wife states that, it's the same gun my husband carries. I said, when we told Deputy Mahoney that it was just a pepper ball gun, Deputy Mahoney said, if I known that, I'd have jumped out and kicked his ass. So anyways, so we were talking about that, and Steve Miller's comment was, well, here's the only problem we have. And this is the same thing we discussed with the Howard case. It was me, Ramsey, and them, is that, yeah, we could probably charge him with it, but the problem is we don't have anything. Because when you were at Blue Jacket Park, you didn't seize the gun, you didn't seize his uniform, you didn't seize anything. So how are we to say that what happened then is this what we have now. So there had to be some other things. The other thing he said is that with the Deputy Mahoney cases, after he reviewed everything I brought him to, and eventually we did charge him, Steve Miller did charge him with these offenses that Austin Moore said we didn't have probable cause for. He said we have enough charges with the Deputy Mahoney case anyways, just charging with one more felony wouldn't matter. So he said we're not going to deal with it at that time.
Okay. But did you receive an email from Austin Moore on May 20th, 2019 regarding the pepperball weapons? You said you had inquired.
It said yes, that people could openly carry a pepperball gun.
Not just people.
That Metro State gun.
Metro State.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes.
It was specific to. I'll just read it. I talked to the supervisor of misdemeanors, and unfortunately, she did not see anything illegal about Metro State guys openly carrying pepperball guns.
Right.
Let me know if you come up with any other ideas about dealing with the Metro State problem. So you received that email?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so you're saying, I think you said it a few minutes ago, that you don't believe that to be true. You believe that he's wrong.
Right. What happened is after the Dr. Phil show, when I started researching the SuffScan, I pulled up that statute, openly carrying of weapons, and now when you read it, see, here's the other thing that you got to understand. I don't know what Austin Moore told that misdemeanor attorney, okay? What was the context? Because, see, here's the thing. Jeremy can carry that pepperball gun, okay? As long as it's for self-defense, and when you read case law about self-defense, it has to be on your personal property. So, yes, Jeremy can walk around his personal property all day carrying that pepperball gun. But as a convicted felon, okay, his neighbor must be able to say that's a pepperball gun, not a firearm, a pepperball gun. Okay, so if Jeremy carries it in the context, like, we have our paddle holsters, like the Blackhawk paddle holsters. If Jeremy's carrying that gun in that paddle holster, walking around his property on his yard, and his neighbor calls and says, hey, I got a guy walking around the yard carrying a firearm, and we arrive, and he's out there carrying a firearm, and we identify it as a firearm, which we would, because all our weapons experts, even me, he's in violation of the law. Yeah, you can carry it for self-defense, but it must be able to be readily identified as a pepperball gun. So in other words, if he was walking around his property and he was carrying the like in Dr. Phil's show, like
this is, just to be clear, this is your interpretation of the law,
right?
And you're not a lawyer, right?
No, I'm a deputy. I look at what I read, I put the stuff together, and anyways. But what I'm going with this was this. I don't know what in context Austin Moore and that person talked about. Was she aware at the time that Austin Moore was referring to, we have this group that's dressing up like cops, okay, and they have pepperball guns in their holsters that look like firearms. Are they allowed to do that? Well, then if she would have looked up state statute, openly carrying, she would have said, well, wait a minute. Yeah, nowhere in here does it say that.
You don't know any. Like
that's what I'm saying.
You don't know.
That's what I said. I don't know what the context was.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I mean, you got an email from Austin.
Correct.
That says that they can openly carry.
Correct. Correct.
So did you intentionally disregard that legal advice from the sheriff's office?
Oh, no, I didn't.
For this arrest?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay, did you consult again after you had this epiphany with the Dr. Phil, did you consult with legal again at any point?
No, I didn't consult with legal, and this is the reason being. During our investigation with the Jeremy Dewitte case, on 3 occasions, actually 4 if you include that one I was telling you about, Austin Moore has given me improper advice about probable cause with charges. And one was a search warrant. He said I had no probable cause for a search warrant. A judge reviewed it, said I had probable cause. In another case, on 2 charges that I filed against 2 defendants in the case, Austin Moore said I had no probable cause to file this. There's no crime here committed. Those charges were filed. I got warrants from the state, filed those charges, and one person, Randall Brack, has already been pled out to the case. So in my opinion, at that point, Austin Moore, he's already erred 3 times on probable cause, and in my opinion, he was erring on this weapons charge too. You cannot carry a pepperball gun in open, and the state statute even supports that.
So we have a legal division at the sheriff's office, and the purpose of them is to provide legal advice to deputies.
Correct.
So, I mean, you're saying, is it your testimony that you didn't intentionally disregard that advice? It sounds like you did. I mean,
Oh, no. I didn't intentionally, no. Because, see, here's the other thing.
You arrested him for a charge that you were told that they can openly carry.
No, I arrested him. No, I arrested him for carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon.
Right.
I didn't charge him with this, even though I could have. That the charge I charged him with is not what he said. I charged him with carrying a concealed weapon.
Well, they're not. Mr. DeWitte's not carrying it in any different manner on March 23rd than he had previously.
Oh, yes, he did.
Okay, explain that to me.
Oh, absolutely, he was.
Okay.
So, well, let me get back to what I was saying before we go into that, what you were just saying. So, about disregard, no. Back in October 2019, Captain Espinoza called Cal Wacker, and they were talking about this case. He was on speakerphone. They were on speakerphone. The undersheriff was there. And Cal was complaining about the oversight and having to take all these cases to our staff attorney to review before I could go get warrants. And the verbatim out of the undersheriff's mouth was, since when does our staff attorney tell a deputy whether he has probable cause or not?
Were you present for this?
This was relayed to me from Cal Wacker because I was there when he hung up the phone.
So you were not present for that?
That was just Cal Wacker, and it was given to me by Cal Wacker because we were complaining about having to have the Austin. He goes, listen, the undersheriff just told me, I was on a conference call with Espinoza and the undersheriff, that the staff attorney does not tell us whether we have probable cause or not.
Okay. But at the end of the day, you still have this email.
Oh, okay, yeah. And so let's go on to what you were saying. No, Jeremy carries it in a different style. Back when we were initiating the investigation, when we were doing the investigation, we were all under the assumption, because of the email, that they were allowed to openly carry these pepper ball guns. Okay?
And that was the legal advice from
right.
legal sheriff's office.
What Jeremy was carrying at the time, which he always carried at the time, was this gun, this style gun. And now, if you read the jury instructions, still an ordinary person wouldn't be able to tell that's a pepper ball gun, but I always could, and we always could, his motor unit, we all knew it because we all laughed about his little CO2 thing at the end, okay? And that's what he always carried, okay? That day that I came across him, he had switched.
Okay. But does this look like a regular firearm?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Could a regular firearm have that on the bottom?
I've never seen that on a regular firearm.
But could it?
I've never seen it.
Okay.
Well, I know that's
But
no, it couldn't. A regular,
it could be
a
pepper ball gun or
well, if somebody,
real firearm disguised as a pepper ball gun, right?
yeah, if somebody took off a knob and glued it back to like our firearm, then I guess you could. But I'd always known Jeremy to carry this style.
So even that's not. I mean, anything could be anything, right? I mean,
well, that's why we always have to treat it as a firearm.
And nobody's disputing that. But whenever you go back to the statutes and you go back to everything that we talked about earlier, this right here with this notch, it could be a firearm. Could be a firearm.
Yeah,
correct. It could be a candy dispenser.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be it could be anything.
Right.
It could be a coin dispenser. It could be a water gun.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's where I go back to the.
So what you're saying is
of the statute, right, where it's detectable by ordinary sight to be a weapon. The average person would look at it
as a firearm,
as a weapon.
No, as a firearm. No, as a firearm.
Okay.
No average person would say that's a weapon. That's a pepper ball gun. Not a single person. Now, like you said, where you're going back to, if I'd known it then at the Blue Jacket Park, what I know today, I would have arrested Jeremy for carrying a pepper ball gun because he's not allowed per Florida state statute. Okay, but we all were told that he was allowed to do this. We were all told. And because I'm familiar with it, when I look at that, I could readily identify that not as a firearm, but as a pepper ball gun, because I know that's what Jeremy carries. He was carrying this gun. Okay.
But you can't, because that's my whole point.
An ordinary person
You can't,
couldn't. No.
Because, like I said, you can't identify what something is until you
physically take
manipulate
it, right.
And once you manipulate it and find out what it is, then what it is.
Which makes my point even better. If you have to manipulate something to find out what it is, it's concealed.
I disagree with that.
I don't agree.
The statute itself is concealed weapon.
Correct.
Concealed from the ordinary sight of another person.
Correct.
Like we talked about, the statute itself is for being carried in waistbands where it's a danger to the community. That's the reason why the statute is written the way it is.
Or being carried in a holster, looking like a firearm, and to be used. So, I mean, obviously that's your interpretation. I'm going
and I understand your
straight by the jury instructions that it has to be readily identified. And you sit here and you tell me that you can't identify it as a pepper ball gun, that you would identify that as a firearm. Well, then he's in violation of the statute.
Okay. You had mentioned you talked with Stephen Casey Miller. Do you recall a conversation with who was the assistant state attorney previously? Do you recall a conversation where he told you that something to the effect that that's not a tree we need to bark up because there's other charges that are stronger?
Yeah, that was Steve Miller.
Yes.
Yeah, that's when we were discussing this whole thing. That's like I said earlier.
And he said, so you asked him about it,
Right.
was it illegal? And he said, that's a tree we don't need to bark
Right,
up.
because with Deputy Mahoney case, we had enough charges.
Okay.
We didn't need to go. And the other thing I did tell...
Did he tell you that he wouldn't file criminal charges for this carrying of a concealed?
Steve Miller, no, not at all. Not at all. And the reason we discussed that, like I said, he testified that we couldn't file charges because we didn't even have the gun. We didn't have anything. If we had all that, then we could look at it, reevaluate it, but we didn't have anything. So no, we weren't filing those charges at that time for the Deputy Mahoney case or the Howard case.
So when Jeremy brings it up on the traffic stop that he has these emails, you didn't address his concerns. You just, I mean, he's not wrong. There were
I know.
The email said that he can openly carry pepper ball guns. You didn't address it. I just want to be clear. You didn't address it because you believed that Austin was incorrect, and so the email in your mind no longer mattered. Is that?
No, that's not correct. I didn't address it because I was charging him with carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon. Okay? That's what I charged him with. I didn't address it because I don't care what emails you have. Just like he tells everybody all the time. He's got an email from Florida Highway Patrol that says he can do what he's doing. He's got an email from Steve Foster that says Steve Foster picked out my uniforms. He's got an email. Jeremy runs off at the mouth saying he's got all this stuff. He's got all this stuff. And as dealing with him for the years I know, you learn to tune it out. When he talks, you tune it out. You say, Jeremy, I'm controlling this. This is your, okay. Whether he had an email reference he could carry that was irrelevant because under the carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon, Jeremy, that weapon has to be detectable immediately as a pepper ball gun. I thought it was a Glock until I pulled it out and saw that it was a pepper ball gun. Again, I get excited. Don't. It's
okay. Just because we're on that, and I want to make sure we don't forget it. What is it about the Dr. Phil episode specifically that changed your mind about this whole thing?
What changed my mind about Dr. Phil when he showed Jeremy the guns, and he showed Jeremy the yellow gun, the blue guns, and Jeremy looks and Dr. Phil says, you know, why don't you carry this one? Why don't you carry this one? And Jeremy goes, well, I do have those yellow ones. And Dr. Phil said, well, why don't you carry it? Or Dr. Phil said, well, which one do you carry? And he goes, I carry the black one. And he goes, well, why don't you carry this one? And he goes, well, it wouldn't matter because nobody could tell what it was anyways in the holster, okay? So you take that, and immediately I'm sitting there going, okay, this isn't right. You can't carry a black gun, pepper ball gun, down the street. People just can't walk down the street. So that's when, after I literally went and I started researching again, I pulled the weapons to see if he can really carry this. And when I pulled this openly carrying of a weapon, I'm like, there's nothing here that says he can carry a pepper ball gun. He can't. He can carry the spray, but I think what happened, I think legal staff, like which has happened before, like I said, I've called them 3 times, telling me I had no problem. I think they're misinterpreting chemical spray with pepper ball gun. I think what happened when the misdemeanor attorney heard her pepper ball gun, she's thinking chemical spray is truly what I believe. Okay, yeah, he's allowed to carry pepper ball gun because it says you're allowed to carry chemical spray for self-defense. Not knowing, and the misdemeanor attorney, not knowing that we're talking about a real weapon here. We're talking about a real weapon that looks like a firearm having pepper balls in it that you can shoot and you can hurt somebody. Okay, I think truly in her mind she was thinking spray. Psst, psst. And I truly think that's...
Okay, would you agree that a convicted felon openly carrying a pepper ball weapon, is that illegal or illegal?
Illegal.
Okay.
You cannot...
In your interpretation of it.
In my interpretation of this, I don't think anybody can. Now, knowing what I know after the Dr. Phil show, I do not feel anybody, if you weren't a cop, okay, if you weren't a cop and you're walking down the street openly carrying a pepper ball gun and you're not licensed, you're not, which falls under the thing, you're not a security guard, you're not, there's exemptions in there. You're just carrying a gun, you're in violation of this statute of openly carrying a weapon. Okay, you're in violation. Okay, and let's just say, let's take the concealed weapon.
And just to be clear, this is your interpretation of the law.
Yes, and from what yes, okay. This is my interpretation, and this is what
there is no case law that supports that stance.
There's all case law right here, and there's case law that I gave you. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll review that.
Okay.
But is that?
But there's case laws associated with this statute.
Okay.
And if you review them, and like I said, let's just say, and I'm going to go, let's say you were walking down the road and you were carrying that one that Dr. Phil showed was yellow. It's sort of like a taser. That's what I always tell people. I said, I can drive down the road and look and see the yellow taser and go, I can identify that as non-lethal. Now, obviously, we always take it as a gun, as a firearm, but, that's a taser. If you were walking down with that yellow pepper ball gun, and I could look at it and go, wow, he's carrying a yellow pepper ball gun. Hey, sir, come here a minute. Do you have a permit? Are you security? Are you whatever? No. Well, per Florida State Statute 725.3, you're not allowed to carry that pepper ball gun. You can carry, it's a weapon. The only weapons you're allowed to openly carry is a chemical spray, a dart, that stuff.
Okay. All right. So I want to fast forward to Blue Jacket Park.
Okay, sir.
How did you get notified to go there?
During that time, we had worked many Citrus Bowl games before that time. I started, like I said, this started back in, I want to say, March of 2019. We had several run-ins with Metro State at the Camping World.
Just how did you get notified?
Okay. I got notified, I believe it was by then Lieutenant Bly is who called me, I believe.
From the Orlando Police
Department? From the Orlando Police Department, yes.
Why?
If I remember the phone call vaguely, he said, hey, Keith, I know you're the one in Orange County dealing with this Metro State company. There's been an incident involved Metro State and one of your deputies. And he said, can you come down here? And I go, yeah, I'll be on my way.
Okay. So an arrest is made, Randall Brocious, for carrying the firearm, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
and again,
I think we kind of touched on this, but we watching the video, you made the statement to Jeremy after that. You said Randall Brocious is going for the open carry. That's it. All the other guys are clear. They're all pepper ball guns.
Correct.
Okay. In another video, it looked like you took the pepper ball guns from the guys and then gave them back.
Correct.
Okay. So you're saying that at that time there was nothing illegal about it.
No, I'm saying at that time...
Are you in your...
yeah, I hadn't done any more research like I did after the Dr. Phil show. During that time, we were told they were allowed to carry him. I didn't look into it any further. We just took it, and that's what happened.
Is that what prompted you to question Austin Moore or Stephen Casey Miller or anything like that? Is that the incident that prompted you to research it further or ask all these questions of Austin Moore and things?
No, what prompted it is, like I said...
That?
No, what prompted it was the incident involving Deputy Mahoney and Mr. Howe, because both of them are saying that if they knew it was a pepper ball
Okay.
gun, that what they would have done would be different.
That was all part of the Mahoney. That was all.
That was all part of the whole investigation. Yes.
Okay. All right. And Jeremy had a pepper ball weapon on him that
Yeah,
day.
and like I said, at that time we were told he could carry them, and I hadn't reviewed and really did in-depth look on the statute.
Okay. Have you been around Mr. Dewitte since that time? Right. So since 2019 and on, has he carried a pepper ball weapon other times that you've stopped him or been around him?
No, ever since the other time, the only other contact I've had with him since all these cases was in March of something 2020. And no, he was just wearing plain clothes.
Okay. All right. So I just want to be clear because after all that, you had the email from Austin Moore, you had the conversation with Stephen Casey Miller, and you have obviously been with Jeremy before and not arrested him. So the thing that changed between those times, all those previous, and then this arrest is what the statement that was made on Dr. Phil.
Correct. It prompted
Okay.
me to review everything dealing with that weapon to make sure he can carry it. And then after I reviewed everything, I'm sitting there going, no, he can't carry it. Matter of fact, the way he's carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon.
But you did not go back to legal and consult with them again, correct?
No, and like I said, because of the misinformation he gave me before, and what Cal Wacker told me that the undersheriff said is our legal staff does not tell us whether I have probable cause or not. And after I reviewed all these things, I believed I had probable cause to initiate arrest if I ever saw Jeremy again and he was carrying what I believe this weapon he would have been carrying.
So you had this idea. Did you consult with any legal entity, Austin Moore, or not Austin Moore, the new state attorney Colin Moore, or anybody else, or did you just go and you made the decision that next time I see him with this, this is...
No, I don't know if it was I made a decision next time I see him. It was just like saying, hey, he can't do this. He can't. He can't be carrying this pepper ball gun. The day of the arrest, I had got an email from Colin Moore in reference to a hearing dealing with a separation of trial between Dylan Vogue and Jeremy. And so I got that email, and I'm like, what's he talking about? I got it. So I called Austin Moore, and I said, Colin Moore. And I was calling him to find out what this separation thing was. What are you talking about, a separation of trial? And when I called him, I said, hey, Austin, I'm calling you reference to, or Colin, I'm calling you in reference to your email you sent me on this thing. He goes, oh, I'm reading your report right now. And I'm like, my report? What do you mean my report? He goes, your arrest report. I'm like baffled. What do you mean my arrest report? He goes, didn't you just arrest Jeremy today? I go, yeah, I did, but how are you reading it now? I just booked him. And he goes, oh, I'm reading it. And he goes, so we had a discussion about the case, very vague. And he goes, well, all right, well, I guess I'll have to wait for the case packet to get here and we can round table it and when I get the packet. I said, okay. And then we continued talking about the separation of the trials.
Okay. But prior to the arrest, so after the Dr. Phil show and prior to the arrest, I just want to be clear, you didn't consult with...
No.
Did you consult with other deputies?
Oh yeah, I consulted with John Ramsey and other deputies. I was just saying
specifically about this, what we're talking about.
About this. I think the one I spoke to was the Ramsey. I believe Ramsey is the one I spoke to because I said, hey, you know that bulletin or you know that them saying that Jeremy is allowed to carry pepper ball guns? I said, read the statute. See if you see anything different than I see. And Ramsey reads and he goes, no, you're right. They're not allowed to carry pepper ball guns. I go, that's what I'm reading.
Okay, but you and Ramsey are both not lawyers, correct?
No, neither is a deputy, but when a deputy reads a statute, they based on what they believe the statute to be.
Okay. On the traffic stop, did you hear Mr. Dewitte ask for a lieutenant or captain?
Oh, yeah.
Multiple times?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever get a lieutenant or captain?
No, I did not at that point because we were on I-4.
At any point on this traffic stop, or at any point during this arrest?
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay.
Crab.
To speak. Okay, Crab.
Yeah. So what happened? We were in the we were in the office. Crab wanted me to meet him at the office, and so I met Lieutenant Crab at the office, and he said, "Show me what you have." And so that's the picture where we laid the gun belt out and we were showing him everything. And he said, "Okay, well, how do you come up with this charge?" I showed him the jury instructions for
and we'll get there in a minute. I just want to know specifically, did you tell him that, hey, Jeremy wants to talk to you?
Yes. So what I did is, myself, I'm there. Let's see, I'm trying to recall now. We're at his door. The desk is right outside his door. I'm standing here. It was Ramsey here, and John Reeves was standing right over here. And we were making some stuff. We were joking, laughing stuff. And we were in the middle. We were going to leave. We were fixing to leave. It was somewhere around town. And I said, "Oh, hey, by the way, Jeremy wants to speak to my captain." And Crab goes, "I don't want to talk to him." I said, "Okay, well, I'll let you know he wants to speak to you." I'm not talking to him. And then we're all joking, laughing, and we leave.
Okay. All right.
But mind you, too, though, that's normal. I can pull video after video of every scene Jeremy's on. He immediately goes to, "I need your supervisor. I want to speak to the captain. I want to." He dominates. That's part of his domination of the scene. And like I said, so when he's saying that on the forehead, it would be going in there, went out. But yes, when I was at the motor office,
you made a statement that he wants to talk to you.
Oh yes,
Crab.
yes, I told Crab,
Okay.
and Crab's like, I have no need to talk to him.
I'm just checking the battery.
Okay.
Okay. So then, fast forward. You're not present for the interview, correct?
No.
At the conclusion of the interrogation, you made the decision to take Mr. DeWitte's clothing.
Yes.
Or his uniform.
Yes.
Why?
Because of what Stephen Miller told me. What Stephen Miller told us with the Deputy Mahoney case and the Howard case. He said because we didn't have any of his clothing, we didn't have his gun belt, because we couldn't prove the crime of carrying a concealed weapon because we don't have anything. We don't have it. So the least we can do is because you can testify that you know that this gun is a pepper ball gun, we can charge him with aggravated assault with a weapon.
What does his uniform have to do with carrying a concealed weapon? I mean, I understand you have the weapon. That's
Right.
the evidence in your case. What does his uniform have to do with it?
Okay. Well, somebody that's not familiar with Jeremy Dewitte in the whole Metro State, everything about him, what he does is he carries that weapon as a firearm, his uniform, his badge, his everything, to demand people to do what he says.
Well, that's impersonating a police officer.
Which is part of that,
Was
right.
he charged with that on this day?
No, not that day, because no. Follow me, what I'm getting at. So the uniform, everything makeup would lead his uniform, his badge, his military marksman medal saying I'm an expert in pistol, would lead an ordinary person to believe that he's some type of law enforcement, and that's a firearm. That's not a pepper ball gun.
I understand if you're charging him with carrying concealed, with impersonating a law enforcement officer. That makes
Right.
sense. But I don't see the relevance of taking his uniform, other than I'm just going to take his uniform, as far as the charge of carrying a concealed firearm.
Because you said it yourself earlier. You said when we're dressed up, a law enforcement officer riding down the road, you said it yourself with our gun, which you said a firearm, in a holster and everything, that basically a person looks at us as a cop, as a position of authority, and says, without a doubt, that's a firearm. That's exactly what Jeremy's portraying, that same image. That's what he wants. He wants people to look at him.
But that's a separate charge.
That's possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. The uniform, everything, he persona, just like you said. When somebody looks at his medals, looks at his badge, looks at his uniform, looks at his motorcycle, looks at everything, and then looks at that gun, the firearm in his holster, not a single person is going to say that's a pepper ball gun because of everything he's wearing. When you put that uniform on a thing,
And I'm not necessarily disputing that.
Oh, okay.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm
And-
just trying to understand is the taking of the uniform.
that's the reason, because everything
for a carry
about
concealed.
him supports the charge
Okay.
of carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon.
All right. Did you review Corporal Ramsey's interrogation?
No, I have not. Honestly, I have not even reviewed it.
All right, but just for policy's sake, when a person in custody asks to call their lawyer during an interview, what should a deputy do?
Well, it all depends on our training bulletins. If it's clear statement, hey, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And the reason I say this because when we had initially talked to Jeremy back in October of 19, unless they say, hey, I want to speak to my attorney, okay, fine, stop it, it's clear, understand, you don't want to talk to me anymore, you want to speak to your attorney, okay, we get that. If somebody makes a vague statement, well, I don't know if I should be talking to you anymore, maybe, I don't know, I don't know, okay.
So a specific request to call a lawyer, what should a deputy do?
If I'm interviewing you and you say, hey, I want to stop, I don't want to talk to you anymore, I want to call my lawyer, then I need to stop.
Okay. Were you made aware that at any point that Mr. Dewitte requested a lawyer during his interview?
No, I was not.
Okay. At the end of the interrogation, you came in the room and you made several comments that I want to address real quick, just because they were somewhat odd or strange,
yeah.
And so you began talking about starting a funeral escort business, or he made accusations. Are you, or have you ever considered starting a funeral escort business?
No, not at all.
So why did you feel it was necessary to discuss that with Mr. Dewitte?
Several reasons. Because in the beginning of the Dr. Phil show, Jeremy made a comment to Dr. Phil that we, the sheriff's office, was targeting him because a certain sergeant in the sheriff's office is starting his own funeral escort company. And I heard that, and I'm like, what? Well, we were joking because after the Dr. Phil show, motor guys kept coming up to me going, hey, I heard you're starting a funeral escort company. I heard you're starting a funeral escort. And I said, I have nowhere he's talking about that, you know? And so anyways, so we blew it off. Well, then I had a deposition in the Dylan Vogt case, okay, Jeremy's brother, for the charges that I filed on him. So the attorney starts talking, you know, typical deposition, what's your name, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and all of a sudden he goes, okay, let's get the elephant out of the room. I'm like, what? He goes, are you, your family, any member, friends, anybody starting a funeral escort company? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So Jeremy thinks I'm targeting him because I want to start a funeral escort company? This is ludicrous. I'm a building contractor. I have a contractor. I have no intention whatsoever to start a funeral escort company.
Okay.
So that was the reason when I went in there, because I'd done that, and I'm like, I just wanted to let him know, Jeremy.
Yeah, you made sure that the comments were on body cam video. I think you said something to, you know, while we have the body cam going, I want to clear up a couple.
Oh, I wanted to document it. Yeah, I wanted to document because of the deposition.
Okay.
I have, Jeremy,
Okay.
This is nothing personal. I'm not here to start my own funeral escort company.
You also talked about how you had just spent, you know, a large sum of money on gunite equipment.
Right.
Why? Why talk about that with him? I mean,
because because I wanted him to know that if I was starting my own funeral escort company, why would I spend money on a pool company? Well, wouldn't I spend?
So that was all part of the same.
Right. I was trying to reassure him that I in no way want to start a funeral escort company.
You also said something like, in your videos, I just want to read it. In your videos, you're dogging me, but you don't know the full truth.
Right.
I mean, that just sounds like a very personal statement, right? You know, you're trying to defend yourself. What's the purpose in saying that kind of stuff?
No, in his videos, he was telling everybody that I'm intentionally coming after him. I just wanted them to know, in his videos, he continued thinks that this is personal, that we're coming after him. I can't count the number of times I've told Jeremy, you have a great business concept. You really do. But everything about your business has to be run legally. We're willing to work with you. I have no problem working with you. We'll work with you. We'll show you what you got to do. I even in the one interview was saying, you know, showing them how, you know, if he keeps his cars together and he slows down to a crawl through the intersection, because we were telling him you can't legally hold that, you can't act as a cop. And then I think he said something like, well, then, what about when the light turns, people coming through? And I was showing him how you bunch everybody up. And, and throughout my contacts with Jeremy, I always told him, you have a great business concept, just everything has to be done legally. And so when I saw his videos, he's bashing me. I'm like, maybe he doesn't understand. This is nothing personal. I just want you to run this legally, Jeremy. And we've even tried to work with you.
I know you say it's not personal. I just want to ask some questions real quick. Did Mr. Dewitte's YouTube videos, in which he's dogging you, the clown video, for instance, right? Have you seen a video from Dr. Phillips?
Oh yeah, the Dr. Phillips, yeah.
He edits a video.
Yeah.
With the clown impersonating you, and it says Sergeant Vidler on a shirt or something like that. Have you seen that video?
Yeah, I believe something like. People send me texts all the time with these videos.
Did that make you mad? Did that make you upset?
Oh no, we laughed. We laughed our ass off. It was pretty funny.
Did that have any influence on your decision to make this arrest?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
I know the answer to this one, but did Jeremy's comments on the Dr. Phil show have any influence on this arrest?
No. Jeremy's comments on the Dr. Phil show about the weapon that he carries prompted me to look into the statutes.
What about the other comments where he's making comments about you starting your pool? Or your
funeral escort company? Oh no! All that prompted me. No, all that prompted me, and that never prompted me out. Like I said, and I think I said it earlier, we were all laughing. Everybody was calling me saying, "Hey, I heard you're starting your own funeral escort company." No, it did not piss me off in any way, shape, or form. But when I basically dropped it until that deposition, and then I got the deposition. I'm like,
when was that deposition?
I don't recall. It was a virtual deposition.
Give me a month or.
I want to say it was in the beginning of March.
So was it after the Dr. Phil show or before the Dr. Phil show?
I believe it was after the Dr. Phil show, yes.
Okay. And that's the deposition that you're referring to where
the attorney,
asked you about the funeral escort?
Funeral escort, yes.
Did the fact that there was a new state attorney assign the cases, so Stephen Casey Miller's gone, he had told you, it's not a tree I'm willing to bark up, right? You remember that conversation?
Yeah.
With the fact that he was gone now, you have a new state attorney, did that have anything to
Oh, no.
to do
no,
with
not
this?
at all. No.
Captain Carpenter was on leave, right?
Right.
Did that influence? Captain Carpenter's not here to see me do this. Did that have any?
Oh no, not at all. Matter of fact, when Sandy Carpenter was on lead, Major Hosey called John Ramsey and I in, and he wanted us to give him a rundown on the Metro State thing, and we gave him a rundown. I mean, we were very, very detailed, and we even told him that the standing orders is if we saw Jeremy, just normal duties of our day, committing a crime, that we were still allowed to take action.
Okay, so the fact that Major Enzueto was gone,
oh no,
did that have any
no,
impact
not at all.
on why you arrested him?
No, not at all.
Let me ask you this: the fact that Jeremy was out on bond, I think he makes some mention of it at the time of the arrest, but he was out on bond.
That doesn't matter.
I mean, well, you know his bond would be revoked upon another new law violation, right?
But through the whole course of the investigation, it never was. So no, it wouldn't have mattered. No.
So that didn't have any influence on your decision to make this arrest?
Not at all.
Was your intention to have his bond revoked?
No, not at all. Because I knew we were going to try. It doesn't matter whether he's out or not. We're going to trial.
So, I mean, just kind of all those little things like I was talking about that were captured on body cam about the comments made on social media, the comments about you starting a business and things like that. I mean, did all that get under your skin?
No, we laughed about all this stuff. That doesn't get under my skin at all. I'm here to do a job. Okay, I'm here to do a job. I do my job. I don't hold anything against people. I'm the first person to help people out. Matter of fact, under my skin, during this time we was making all these videos, like for example, I stopped Jeremy for all the red lights, okay? And Alex Ringwell calls me and says, listen, Keith, I'm working with Jeremy. We don't want any beef with you. We just want to come to compliance. And I'm like, yeah, that's all we want. And he goes, will you be willing to work with us? I'm going to try to get Jeremy changed. I go, yeah, I'll work with you however you guys want to work. And so he started calling me. He goes, hey, I changed the lights on this car to purple. They were red. He goes, I've changed them out. Will you help us? I said, yeah, I'll dismiss the tickets. He goes, will you do that for all the tickets you wrote everybody to include Jeremy? I go, yes, I have no problem doing that. And so he changed the lights, and I dismissed all the tickets. I even dismissed Jeremy's tickets.
Which one?
The red lights, the red light car, the lights.
You're talking about, when you say red light, you're talking about improper light.
Improper lights.
On a vehicle,
yes, correct.
Not running a red light.
Not running a red light. Improper lights on the vehicle. Yes.
Okay.
So no, this.
But you can you agree that someone could look at all this and say, yeah, maybe he got under his skin?
Well, I think what you're saying is, yes, Jeremy could look at that and say that because he's trying to cover for all the crimes that he's committed. You got to understand, the undersheriff made a misstatement when he said this. He said, we're just dealing with traffic offenses here. Why are we wasting time on traffic offenses? These aren't traffic offenses. Jeremy Dewitte was running a criminal enterprise, a RICO. Okay? You guys are investigating. You know what that is. Okay? These weren't just traffic offenses. He's running.
But it did not go to a RICO type.
Well, that's a whole other story if you want to go down that hill.
But it did not, ultimately.
Well, actually, no, because if you call Stephen Casey Miller, Stephen Casey was actually pursuing RICO charges himself. Yes, he was. Matter of fact, if you call Colin Moore, we even discussed, like a month ago, we had a meeting, me, Colin Moore, John Ramsey, and John Allen. And even then, Colin Moore said, this is a RICO case. And I go, yeah, that's what we've been saying from day one. There's so many.
Colin Moore said that.
Yes. Okay.
So you can. I mean, with all these things, was this personal to you?
Not at all. Not at all. I've said that to Jeremy many a times. This is not personal, Jeremy. I just want you to come in compliance with the statute. I even took time to tell him, Jeremy, you got to file an LLC. You can't keep running the business as a DBA. A DBA allows you to start. You come up with a new business, you start running it. But you've been allegedly, from your own statements, running this for 10 years. In 10 years,
Sergeant Vidler, is that something that the sheriff's office enforces?
That doesn't. No. I was saying it as a friend, showing him that, hey, work with us.
But we have a specific function, right? And that is not one of our functions.
Community relations is one of our functions.
Okay, but enforcing that.
Enforcing what?
Enforcing somebody working as an LLC instead of a DAB.
No, enforcing.
There's nothing that we as the sheriff's office would enforce regarding that.
Well, no, as far as license, no, that's just community related. That's just saying, hey, Jeremy, you've got to get your LLC. You've got to have an occupational license to operate in Orange County. You don't even have that. You've got to come in. You've got to come in with the law.
Did you use your official position as a deputy to infringe on his rights on this day by taking him to jail and arresting him? Again, it
no
can look personal.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Did you notify your chain of command about this arrest?
Yes, I did.
Why did you notify them?
Because during the whole investigation back in 2019, Sandy Carpenter had a standing order that moving forward, if anybody comes in contact with Metro State employees, makes an arrest or run and everything, that they need to be notified.
Okay. And I just want to go back real quick. So you said no, you didn't use your official position to infringe upon his civil rights. Why not?
I use state law. First of all, I would never use my position to infringe on somebody's civil rights. I don't do that. That's not me. I've never done that. That's not me.
Okay, so you used the law, and when you said that, you kind of looked at the statutes that are in front of you. Is that you used these statutes? And
yes, I used my position as a deputy sheriff to enforce the laws of the state of Florida and the ordinances of Orange County. And like I do when I go out there every day, part of my job is to enforce the laws. And when I see a felony crime, which this was, being committed in my presence, I took action.
Okay. So after the arrest, you said you notified your chain of command. Did you consult with Lieutenant Crabb? He was acting captain at the time, right?
Yes.
Did he express any concern or question the validity of the arrest?
He did. He asked me, he goes, how did you come up with this arrest? I showed him the jury instructions, and he's like, oh, excellent. Yeah, this is a great arrest. Very good. All right. Good job. And that's when we were all standing right there in the thing. And he goes, can you email them to me? And I said, yeah, I'll email. So I sent an email showing him that the jury instructions. And then that's when I know Jeremy, what happened was Jeremy wanted to talk, and I'm not talking to Jeremy. And so I told Crab that, hey, Jeremy wants to talk. I'm not going to interview him. I got too much paperwork. Who do you want to interview him? And Ramsey was standing there, and Crab says, well, John, you're familiar with Jeremy Dewitte. You've been part of his investigation. Go interview him. And then, like I said, all that, and then that's when I was like, oh, and hey, by the way, Lieutenant Jeremy wants to talk to my captain, so you're the captain.
Okay. When you presented him to Lieutenant Crabb, were they highlighted, the jury instructions?
I don't recall. I don't recall if I highlighted them.
This is an email that he provided me with a highlighted...
Yeah. Oh, in the email, did I highlight them? Yes. Yes, I did this. Yes.
Did you present him with a highlighted copy, or was it...
No, I sent an email. Yeah.
Okay, just in the email. Did
Yes.
you highlight that?
Yes, I did.
Why highlight it?
Just to make it easy to read, the bullet points.
Okay. Why not present the whole thing? I mean, it seems to me that certain parts are highlighted, specifically, namely, a weapon need not be completely hidden.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, when you read that, oh yeah, okay. I mean, it's in a holster. It's not
Completely.
It's
right.
not completely. It's half hidden. So, I mean, I see why you highlighted that almost to justify, like, it doesn't have to be completely hidden. But then you take out the part where it says is not concealed, although not fully exposed. And then it's highlighted here. Its status as a weapon is detectable by ordinary observation.
I don't know. I don't know why I did it. He wanted something quickly in an email, so I sent it to him. Be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know what you're asking.
It looks like you could highlight this part that it need not be completely hidden, and that certainly justifies your
your
position.
No,
right?
I think why I did that is because when we were looking at this, he said that because of the holster, it was in the holster, so it's not completely hidden because it's in the holster. To be honest, I don't recall why what I highlighted. I just wanted to get that over to him because he wanted something immediately.
Okay. And then in the day after, was it the day of the arrest or the day after you talked to Colin Moore?
No, it was the day of. It was within hours.
Within hours, okay. And you said that conversation was because of a separate email that he sent you?
Yes, because he sent me an email saying there was a separation of trial. There was a hearing for a separation of trial between Dylan Vogue and Jeremy Dewitte.
Did you call him?
Yeah, I was calling him in reference to the email.
Okay. So you weren't specifically calling him for the... to talk about the arrest?
Oh no, and that's what I said. He totally caught me off surprise when he goes, I'm reading your report right now, and I'm like, what report are you reading? And he's like, your arrest of Jeremy Dewitte. I go, the Dylan Vogue case? No, today. And I'm like, and in my mind I'm thinking, and I even said that to him, I said, I just arrested him. How did you get the report?
Okay. All right. Tell you what.
Do you have more questions?
I do, yeah.
Can we take a break?
Yeah, so that's what I was just going to do. So
He's hiding.
we've been going for a little bit, so why don't we take a quick couple-minute break? And
How much longer do you think? Just an estimate.
I've still got a little bit, so I would say we're probably over halfway. I mean, that was.
So you want me to shut up?
That was. I would say we're significantly past.
Okay.
75%?
What's that?
75%?
somewhere in there.
We're going to step outside. I'm going to ring the bell real quick.
Okay.
Or we'll go in this other conference space.
You are leaving?
Yeah, I'm living.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It was good meeting you.
You too.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, no problem. I'll get some more. Okay.
Another hour? He's got
I think so.
He's got to be someplace, so I'm just trying to work it out.
Yep, I think so.
I think she just wanted to see how the process worked.
Okay. Yeah, that's no problem.
I didn't think it would be, but I guess I didn't really want to. I just want to get into the discussion with you the other day about why she was coming. I'm like, no. Did you say no? No. It just
Yeah,
didn't
no,
dawn on me 'cause
I thought it was something.
No. I don't know attorneys. He's just one of the attorneys.
Yeah. Yeah, that was different.
Yeah, but I know you guys are coming down.
Yeah, and the captain talked to me about it, and he said that's fine for her to come.
Yeah, it was nothing.
All right. All right, and just for the audio recording, I'm sorry, I don't have her last name.
Heidi Parker with
Parker.
Egan, Love, and Sawicka.
She has left the interview. All right. So we'll kind of pick up where we left off, and I just have a couple of clarifying things. So when you talked to Colin in the phone conversation,
Yes.
did he express any concerns to you about the arrest?
The only concern is he didn't have all the information. He knew that what he reviewed was just simply the charging affidavit. It didn't have all the facts of the case, and exactly what he told me. He goes, when I get the case, we'll sit down, round table it, and see what we have.
But did he give you any impression that it was something that he would file or not file or anything like that, or just that he was going to round table?
Not that, no. He said we would round table it. Matter of fact, we had a meeting with him about a month ago, and in that meeting he goes, hey, I'm still waiting for that arrest report to come through. I can't find it. It's like it just...
All right. So we'll kind of move on. there was an accusation that was brought up by Jeremy about the pepper ball gun?
No. So what happened was I told him to call me back. He hadn't called me back for a period of time. And I'm like, what's going on? So I called him. And he answered, and I said, hey, what's going on? And, whatever his conversation is. So I asked him, I said, was Jeremy there? And because again, you got to know the whole story. So we were told back by everybody that's familiar with this case, or witnesses that worked for him and everything, that Jeremy is no longer doing funeral. He's no longer taking any part of any of this. He has taken a back seat at the vice of a mayor. He's letting his other people do the funerals. He's not doing anything, not even participating. It's all his guys. So I asked him. I said, when he said I got Metro State, I said, who do you have? Do you have Jeremy, or was Jeremy there or anything like that? And he goes, well, he was here, but I think he said I told him to leave or whatever. I'm like, which is normal, because we've always told guys, if you deal with Jeremy and he's not part of your, get him out. So when he said Jeremy was there, I was like, well, wait a minute. We were told he wasn't doing these things anymore. And then I asked him, I said, well, was he in uniform? What was he doing? He goes, yeah, he's wearing his gun belt, everything. So I'm like, then why didn't you stop him? He's the one that's telling all these people doing this stuff. Why didn't we deal with him? And he goes, well, if it comes back, I'll deal with him, whatever. But it was his traffic stop.
Right after or in the weeks after the Dr. Phil show, when you started to research.
Yeah, when I was researching this stuff, yes.
So did you ask him specifically, did he have a pepper ball gun on him?
No, I don't think I did.
If he comes back, I'll address it.
No, because he said he was going to, I didn't say anything, because all I know is he said, yeah, he was here. And I'm like, well, why didn't you deal with him? And he's like, well, I told him to leave or whatever. And he says, if he comes back, then I'll deal with him. So, no.
Okay.
Because he wasn't, for everything I knew, he wasn't part of the escorts. He wasn't doing the escorts.
All right. And I with regard to Metro State, I want to get into some of the previous stuff, but I don't. I just want to know when did you first begin investigating Metro State?
I started investigating. I was assisting John Ramsey and Motor Corporal Wilson back in 2014, 15. And we were going to start following them, videotaping them. I was in task force, I believe, at that time. I had seized a motorcycle from DEA, or DEA. We work in that case, so we were using that motorcycle to go with the group. So that's initially.
That's about when you.
That's
started.
Initially when I started.
So. What is the specific, what are the general responsibilities of the motor unit?
The motor unit, what we are is we are to enforce traffic laws in the state of Florida, deal with traffic complaints. We are to enforce all laws of the state of Florida, whether misdemeanor or felony that occur in our presence. We were doing other, community events. We do a lot of dog and pony shows. Escorts, funeral escorts, dignitary escorts.
Dignitary.
Yeah, dignitary.
Does the motor unit do funeral escorts?
We do very, very few. We've done some for
outside of fallen law enforcement officers.
We have, but no, it's got to be a special, like if a mayor died or something like that. It would be something special.
So a dignitary.
Yeah, like a dignitary. Yeah, something. It'd have to be something special.
Okay. What is the general responsibilities of a sergeant in the motor unit?
Didn't you already ask me?
A sergeant, I asked the responsibilities of the motor unit itself.
Oh, okay.
A sergeant specifically.
So a sergeant's responsibility in the motor unit is to, again, first you're a deputy, so you do go out and write traffic tickets, you do enforce traffic laws, you do make arrests, you do, anything you normally do as a normal deputy, but then you have added responsibilities of supervising a squad, supervising your personnel, making sure that their complaints are being worked, making sure that, everything's taken care of, they have what they need, that type of stuff.
Okay. So I just want to confirm. So you and Corporal Ramsey and John Allen we're all kind of working is it fair to say you were working an ongoing, in-depth investigation that you had mentioned RICO? Statewide prosecutor was brought in at some point, or attempted to. You communicated with, from the emails that I got, it looked like you communicated with numerous outside entities as well, different bureaus or whatever.
Correct.
Is it fair to say that an ongoing investigation was going on, right?
Yes, yes.
So I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around why the motors unit specifically was working this investigation.
Well, what happened with this investigation, when Sandy brought it, I met with Enzueto, all these people. Enzueto gave us the green light, let's go work it.
When was that?
I got my timeline. It was in September of 2019.
Okay. And so there, just to be clear, was there some type of meeting that took place?
Yes, we had a meeting.
With who?
Myself, Major Enzueto, Austin Moore, and Sandy Carpenter.
Okay. And you made reference to that meeting previously in this interview, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the same meeting.
Correct.
And so Enzueto said, your testimony is that Enzueto gave a green light?
Yep, let's go. Not only did he give a green light, you had Austin Moore that told me to find every single statute we can find in the statute book to shut this guy down. To shut this guy down. That was his exact words, to shut this guy down.
Okay. So why is a sergeant in the motors unit working this?
Because Sandy assigned me to. Sandy told me to. I think because...
You have people that work for you, right?
Right.
So why was it not delegated to
I think
you?
because I was more familiar with Metro State, because I'm going back to 2015. Ramsey was very familiar with it, and I think that's probably why. I don't know. You would have to ask Sandy why he asked me to do it. I can't speak for Sandy's mind. I know.
So he asked you to do it?
Yeah, I know Sandy asked me to do a lot of details, to be the lead on a lot of details, because when I do it, I do it.
But the agency distinguishes ranks, right, from major, captain,
Correct.
lieutenant, sergeant, and we distinguish those ranks for a reason, right?
Right.
So why not delegate this to one of your deputies? Why is it sergeant?
Well, because we still had and again, I'm just hypothetically thinking. I don't know why he didn't. You're gonna have to get with him. But I think
why didn't you delegate it?
Because I have knowledge of Jeremy. My guys can still do what they were doing, working their complaints, doing what they're doing. They were supervised by a corporal. We only had, I think I was only supervising 4 people. But not only, now don't get me wrong, pull my stats up. Not only was I doing my job as a supervisor and a thing, and doing this investigation, I still continue to do everything else. I still continue to write tickets. I still continue to do escorts. I still continue to do every function that you have to do in the motor unit. But if you want to bring that up, why? When very early in the investigation, right around that same time, when I really started looking at this whole Metro State, I quickly learned that this wasn't just traffic offenses. This was a RICO case. This was huge. This is impersonating. You had fraud. You had insurance fraud. You had all this stuff in here. I requested through Sandy Carpenter that Intel gets involved because, per our policy, Intel was supposed to investigate police impersonation. So Sandy set up a meeting with me, Intel, Al Rollins, Chief Zwig was in there, the undersheriff was in there, and Zuedo was in there. Everybody was in there. Intel, everything. So Major,
when was this?
This was right the first week of October. It's all within this time frame. And Zuedo asked me to explain to everybody what I had discovered. So I went in detail, everything that I discovered. This isn't just traffic offenses. This guy is running a criminal enterprise. This is RICO. We went over everything. After I explained to him everything I had, I showed him everything that I had and everything. Zwig was sitting, if this is that big table up in that conference room, the undersheriff is sitting down here, I'm sitting here, Chief Zwig's sitting over here, Major Zuedo here, Al Rollins was here, the Intel guys were right over here. And Zwig, Chief Zwig looks right at me and goes, Keith, you have worked RICO cases before. Yes, I have. He goes, well, you have everything you need for your RICO case. You've done all the legwork. What else do you need? Why does Intel have to help you? I go, well, we're just asking for, there's too much here. We're a traffic unit. There's too much here. There's too much for just two guys to do. There's a lot of legwork. There's a lot of, you got a lot of documentation to get. And literally, he goes, well, you pretty much have everything. If you need help, I'll help you. And at that same meeting, Major Zoido pumped up and said, Keith, if you need help doing charging affidavits, I'll even help you do charging affidavits. And then the undersheriff was misconfused. He's like, I thought this was just a traffic case, okay? To the point that John Ramsey gets up and says, Undersheriff, this isn't traffic. Let me show you what he's doing. He gets up and takes the computer over to the undersheriff, shows him everything. And the undersheriff's like, whoa. So...
But by policy, Intel...
was supposed to work, yes, and we requested them to.
Okay. Did they ever, did the Intel unit ever assist you?
No, we were told by, and Chief Zwig is the one that said it, you have everything you need. Our Intel unit can't give you anything more that you don't already have.
Okay. And I just want to be clear, that was early October 2019?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got the exact date if you want the exact date.
Okay. All right. So were you aware of a civil agreement between Mr. Constantine and Mr. Dewitte regarding loaning money for an ambulance?
So what happened? We get I guess Tony Constantine. I should say no. I wasn't aware of it until we got called by Tony.
That was in 2019.
In 2019, yes.
So was there a fraud investigation that was conducted?
Yes, John Ramsey was conducting a fraud investigation. Yes.
Was that part of the larger investigation, or was that separate?
I want to say it was separate. It didn't have anything to do with everything that I was working. I was working all the. I was dealing with Department of Agriculture. I was dealing with IRS. I was dealing with workers' comp. I was dealing with all that stuff. John Ramsey took that one. John Ramsey is the one that took that. Okay, so to be honest, I can't tell you much about that case.
So you weren't actively involved in that fraud investigation?
No.
Were you aware, though, that interviews were conducted and evidence was gathered in relation to that case?
Yes.
By Corporal Ramsey?
Yes, I believe Corporal Ramsey talked to. Matter of fact, I know you're going to bring it up. The day that at the office, we were called there by Tony Constantine. That's the first time I met him.
And I'll get to that.
Okay, yes, but yes.
Were you aware that a case number was pulled for that investigation, but no report was completed by Corporal Ramsey until just last week?
Yeah, I know he completed a report, yes.
Were you aware back then in 2019?
I know.
He pulled a case number?
I don't know if he ever pulled a case number, because I think we were still looking at, and honestly, when Tony told us about it, John and I even discussed it, we thought it was a civil matter. Matter of fact, I even remember us telling Tony, hey Tony, I believe this is a civil matter. But I think later John found some information out. And again, you're going to have to ask John, because I don't know the specifics about that case. I really don't.
Okay. But were you aware that no report was done back then?
I don't know what John did.
Does John work for you?
No.
Would you approve his report?
No.
Okay. Should that report have been submitted back in 2019 instead of last week in July of 2021? Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know what he found out. To be honest with you, I don't know what he found out. I can't help you there. I would love to help you, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what.
Would you agree, though, that fraud investigations are highly specialized investigations, right? There's a lot of nuances to fraud investigations. Would you agree to that?
I don't know if I would totally agree. Some fraud investigations are really simple.
Some of them require some advanced knowledge.
Well, the fraud investigations I was working, yes.
Okay.
With the insurance fraud. That's why I was in contact or in the beginning trying to get a hold of a state fraud investigator because of all the insurance fraud. But a simple fraud case, I don't believe so. I mean, but again, that's not my specialty, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay. We have a unit. Is there a unit in the sheriff's office that is supposed to work fraud investigations?
Yeah, and we also have a unit that's supposed to work police impersonation cases. That didn't.
So I guess do you have any idea why a corporal in the motors unit was conducting a fraud investigation with recordings and conducting a full fraud investigation?
Probably because it retained to the whole Jeremy Dewitte. Probably because Jeremy Dewitte was the suspect. It pertained to everything in Jeremy Dewitte.
Okay. And since you brought up the insurance stuff, is the insurance fraud? Is that something that the sheriff's office works?
No, and that's why I had reached out very on in the investigation to have a state insurance fraud investigator contact me, and I never happened, and that's why there was no charges ever filed with the insurance fraud from me.
Okay. Were you ordered to conclude your investigation?
Yes, I was.
And did you conclude it?
Yes, I did.
And after you concluded it, when did you conclude it?
I would have to look at my exact dates. I've got records of everything. It was on or about December 20th or 20th, I
Of
think.
2019?
Of 2019, yes.
After that, what other involvement did you have with Mr. DeWitt?
After that, the only involvement I had with Mr. DeWitt is I stopped him in some date in March of 2020.
Any other? Besides the March 2021 incident, which is this, but
Right.
any others in between?
No, I've only stopped him twice. I stopped him March 20-something 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year later, you would say, of this year.
March
Yes,
2021.
Yes.
Any other interactions in between?
No, I never had any other contacts with him.
Were you upset about concluding that investigation?
I don't know if it's pertinent. Okay. We had a meeting very early in December which included Chief Swig, Sandy Carpenter, myself, Ramsey, and Major Nzueto. In that meeting, they brought up the concern about how long this case was taking, how long these traffic offenses. And I reinstated talked to Chief Swig and everything. I said, Chief, you know how long these things take. There's a lot of rundown. But I also informed them in that meeting about all the interference we were receiving. That was actually delaying everything. We were receiving a lot of interference. So Chief Swig asked me point blank, with everything that you have right now, with all the case numbers, Keith, that you have, how long do you think it's going to take to get all the documentations you need? And literally, I said, Chief, you're talking about 3 months. I said, at least 3 months. So basically what happened, they asked John and I to leave the room. They were going to round table it. Sandy came out and said, you've been given to the end of January to complete your cases. I said, okay. Well, I guess we'll be working through Christmas. No Christmas break. Well, really shortly, what I think triggered it is Osceola County wanted this tape. Basically, make long story short, our volunteer got it right. We came down here. We brought a tape to Captain Espinoza about this volunteer, and that was on this day. We had a Christmas party in the motor unit. Major Nzueto came up to me at that minute, and he said, Keith, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay. He goes, the undersheriff is very disappointed in you. And I'm like, why is he disappointed in me? He goes, well, because of the arrest of this volunteer. I can tell you his name. And I go, well, what did I have to do with that? I didn't have anything to do. Well, you gave the tape to Osceola County. I go, we told PSD that they were requesting a copy of this tape. We didn't give it to them maliciously. We gave it to them because they wanted a copy of it. Well, they're arresting the volunteer today, and the undersheriff is not happy with you. I'm like, I didn't have anything to do with this. And so anyways, how ironic, we get a call from Sandy. He called in his office and says there's been new marching orders. And I'm like, okay. So he goes, I need you and John in my office immediately. So we went to his office. We sat there. Bob Stevens, here's Sandy Carpenter. I'm sitting here. John Ramsey's sitting here. And Bob Stevens is sitting right over there. So we're sitting there, and Sandy starts going. He goes, you two are to have all your cases wrapped up by the end of the week. And if you fail to wrap your cases up by the end of the week, you will be terminated, or you will be disciplined. And literally, you can ask John and you can ask them, literally, and maybe it was disrespectful, but literally I stood up and I said, Sandy, I believe that's an unlawful order. I'm blowing the whistle on this. This is wrong. We've had interference in this investigation from day one. I believe this is wrong. Sandy looked at both of us and said, if either of you think about being a whistleblower, you will be terminated. So I sat back down. I'm like, holy shit. So I looked, and he concluded. Well, there was some misguided orders there. So Sandy left the room. He came back in, and Bob Stevens clarified the orders of what needed to be done. We left the room. I immediately called Cal Wacker, and I said, "Hey, LT," because I kept Cal. I was keeping because Cal was left out of the investigation, so I kept him up to speed every day on it. I said, "Cal," I said, "I've been threatened to be terminated." I said, "This is what happened in the meeting. I believe this is an unlawful order. They're telling us that if we don't wrap our cases up by the end of the week, we're going to be disciplined." I said, "They keep changing the goal line on us." I said, "We have over 80,000 items of videos, documents, pictures to review. It's humanly impossible to review all this in this time period they're giving us." And I know for a fact that John Ramsey actually immediately called Jay and told Jay that we have been threatened to be terminated if we became whistleblowers, because I truly felt it was an unlawful order. I truly believe there was interference being done with this case.
But that was the Captain Carpenter at the time was your superior.
Right, yes. And, to change the goal, there was no, he said it's changed. And like I said, I believe that it was because of...
And
right.
so, I mean, the sheriff's office has ranks for a reason, right? We have
Oh, I understand. Yes.
for a reason.
Right.
And so, I mean, when an order is given by a superior officer, that's the order.
And we completed that order. I did it. And to follow up, I sent an email out to let him know that per your direction, I've wrapped this case up. All the cases that I have pulled case numbers for are all filed.
And also on that same vein, same line. I mean, that's perceived as management prerogative. I mean,
he is the captain, correct? I'm going to obey my captain. Absolutely, I do.
Okay. So to simply answer it, I mean, you were upset. I mean, that was the question I asked. Were you upset about concluding that?
I was upset. Yeah, I was upset with the because you got to understand all the interference that was going on. Sandy in the early investigation said we weren't allowed to interview witnesses. We weren't allowed to talk. Sandy even told me I wasn't allowed to talk to my informants. Matter of fact, when we were there, Sandy walked into the office and goes, "Keith, I need the phone number for your informants." And I looked at him. John Ramsey was there. I looked up at him and I go, "What are you talking about?" "I need your informants' numbers because I'm calling them to let you know that I'm giving you a direct order. You're not allowed to call them anymore." I looked at him and I said, "Sandy, that's not how it works. That's not how informants work." So it was. So yes, I was upset because of all the interference from early on in the investigation. Upset. Sandy wanted a meeting with Austin Moore to review my cases, and as we're walking up to and you can ask Austin this, he'll remember this. Walking up to the office, Sandy goes to me. He goes, "When we walk in there, you're not allowed to say anything. You do not say anything." I'm like, well, "Okay, Sandy." So I'm sitting here. Austin Moore's sitting right here. Attorney Todd was sitting right where you're at. Sandy's sitting right here. And so Austin Moore, we were supposed to do this big operation with Volusia County and Florida Highway Patrol.
Okay.
And
I don't mean to cut you off.
I'm trying to say you said I was upset, and I'm trying to give you the reasons.
I think I understand it, but now there's additional meetings and things like that.
Okay.
I have the answer. I want to go on to a traffic stop in September of 2020, on September 13th. Do you recall that traffic stop?
When?
On September 13th, 2020, on 2 Metro State vehicles.
Yes.
Were those vehicles conducting a funeral escort?
Yes, what I can recall on that is I was on my way home from the convention center. I was traveling northbound on the Florida Turnpike where 429 is. And all of a sudden it was just, traffic was just stopped. And I look up and it looked like an accident is what, because all the lights. And so I weaved through and all of a sudden I come up and it's Metro State doing a funeral escort going going northbound on Florida Turnpike, blocking all lanes of the Florida Turnpike.
Okay. So they were engaged in a funeral escort at that point?
Well, they were engaged doing a funeral escort, but they were also engaged in committing traffic violations because there's no authority that allows them to block all the lanes of traffic.
Prior to that, were you given instructions by anybody to not interrupt a funeral escort?
No, never.
Do you feel that it's appropriate to interrupt a funeral escort as a deputy or as a sergeant in the motor unit, as any deputy? I mean, is it appropriate to interrupt a funeral escort?
No. You're stopping the vehicles that are acting outside the scope of the escort. If they're not, if state statute requires them all to remain, all vehicles comprised of a funeral escort to include a lead and escort
No,
vehicle.
I understand.
So if
I
they're
understand the
outside, they're
statute.
committing traffic.
I'm
violation.
saying that using judgment, right? Using sound judgment.
Right.
Does it reflect favorably upon the sheriff's office to stop a funeral escort?
We're not stopping a funeral escort.
A loved one's has died, and there's an escort going on. Does that reflect well upon the sheriff's office to stop a funeral escort that is in progress?
I never stopped a funeral escort. We don't stop the funeral escort.
Did you stop the vehicles, Metro State vehicles that were engaged?
I
in a
stopped a couple
funeral escort?
vehicles. There was multiple vehicles. I did stop a couple that were outside the scope, but in no way, shape, or form do we ever interfere with the actual escort. The escort continues on. Okay, you don't need these vehicles to do it. That's just Jeremy. Okay, all you need is, per state statute, even the hearse can act as the escort vehicle. Okay, so just because we pulled these over, we don't interfere with the funeral.
Well, I mean, they are engaged in a funeral. The Metro State vehicles.
As long as they're acting within the scope of the statute, yes.
But were you ever given instruction to not interrupt a funeral?
No, not at all.
Okay. Did you ever call any private insurance companies regarding Mr. Dewitte or Metro State?
I called early in the investigation. Our witness stated that a Metro State employee was involved in an accident and that Jeremy did not have insurance and that Metro State employee had to pay for all his medical bills. And when he told me that, I had also found out that he did not have workers' comp. Okay? So again, this is all part of RICO. And in RICO, you start uncovering everything. You call, you do your investigation. So when I found out he did not have workers' comp, the next thing is I found the insurance that he alleges that he has on his vehicles. I called them and I said, hey, I'm just confirming that the insurance on these vehicles are up to date, whatever I said. I forget what I said. And the person that I spoke to, a guy, said, yes, they're all vehicles insured for personal use, and the only drivers are Jeremy and his wife. And I was like, whoa, okay.
So how many times did you contact insurance companies?
Just twice.
Do you remember when those were?
That was the first time during the investigation. I didn't contact anybody after. And then when I stopped at Jeremy on, March in 2020, I knew his insurance, it's fraud. And I knew he doesn't have insurance. And I knew by then that certain insurance companies, and there's several, do not insure commercial vehicles. Okay, then I learned this while we were doing this investigation. So when I pulled Jeremy over in 2020, when I asked him for his insurance card, I already knew that he didn't have insurance. Matter of fact,
why did you know that?
Because I know that the insurance companies had canceled his insurance. I already knew that, and that was a thing that Sandy and I actually went back and forth on because Sandy was like,
was that because you had already called the insurance company prior to that?
Back in 2019, yes.
Yeah, so March 2020, you knew he didn't have insurance because you had called.
I had already called, yes.
2019.
Yes, I already knew, yes.
And at the time in 2019 when you called, he had insurance.
But it was fraudulently obtained because it's a felony crime to misrepresent your thing. So that was,
Okay.
again, I was working with the state. I was calling state fraud. I was insurance.
So you
yes.
wrote him a citation on that traffic stop in March 2020 for
Misrepresentation, because as soon as when I said, hey, I need your insurance
So-
card, he said, I don't have it. I said, well, who's your insurance with? He said, e-insurance. Immediately I knew e-insurance does not insure commercial vehicles, so
So-
he's fraudulently misrepresenting.
His insurance is canceled because you contacted him. I mean,
I can't cancel
no,
somebody's
but
insurance.
because you contacted them, right?
Well, what do you mean? I don't understand the question.
His insurance, you contacted his insurance. I guess my question is, do you feel it's appropriate to contact an insurance company and notify them of whatever you observed and then go and stop him 6 months later knowing he doesn't have insurance and write him an insurance citation? Is that appropriate?
That would be appropriate for anybody, any deputy that has that type of knowledge, absolutely. I didn't stop him for the no insurance. I stopped him for the lights because of the red lights on his
No,
car.
I understand, but you wrote him a citation for the insurance.
Correct.
So you could see how that could be perceived as you call the insurance company and let them know about what he's doing. I mean, did you specifically request to have his insurance canceled?
Oh, no,
Okay.
I have no authority to cancel his insurance.
I understand, but his insurance was ultimately canceled because you contacted him.
That's because they did their own investigation and canceled his insurance.
But then you go and write him a citation for no insurance.
No, I wrote him a citation for no insurance because when he said I had e-insurance, I went back to the car, called e-insurance, and the lady on the phone is like, no, that policy's been canceled, or whatever she said. So I come up with it. I said, well, I'm here with Jeremy. So I come up to Jeremy and I go, Jeremy, which I already knew e-insurance doesn't do commercial vehicles. And so I come up to Jeremy and I said, hey, I'm on the phone with your insurance company. And they said, and I'm paraphrasing, by the way, that they don't have any record of your insurance. Oh, I got insurance. And so I said, well, here. I even give him the opportunity to talk to the lady because I'm trying to give him every benefit out that, hey, maybe he does have insurance.
Right.
And he refused.
So I just want to be clear that your testimony is that you think it's appropriate to contact the insurance company, knowing what you know, and then write him a citation for no insurance after that, knowing that he has no insurance.
I think you're
You said
combining.
that-
I think you're combining two things that aren't to be combined. There's one thing when we're doing a RICO case or an investigation, and I discover that he's fraudulently obtaining insurance for his vehicles. Okay, and then I find out later that the insurance has been canceled, that he doesn't have insurance.
Because you called.
Not because I called, because the insurance company did whatever they did, and they found out that it was obtained fraudulently.
Okay.
Okay, we work with all different agencies when we know there's a crime being committed. Just because if I know there's a crime being committed and I call an agency to say, hey, I believe there's a crime being committed, and they do their investigation and they do whatever they do to the person, it's not because of what I did, it's because of what they investigated.
Okay. Is it standard operating procedure to call an insurance company on a traffic stop?
I do.
Have you done it before?
Oh yeah, I do it all the time.
To other outside of Metro State?
Oh yes.
Other individuals?
Oh yeah, I do it all the time with the record companies.
Okay.
Oh.
And what's the purpose?
The purpose is because I've been notified, and again, this is just traffic. This is what you with your car stores, Johnson and Johnson's Record. They all tell you, hey, when are you guys going to start dealing with those fly-by-the-night record companies? They have no insurance. They have no this. They don't have any this. They don't have licenses to do this. They have no licenses. So I've got that knowledge. I know that when you stop a fly-by-the-night wrecker, to ask for insurance, and if they give you an insurance card, to call that company to see if it's still valid. That is a misdemeanor crime to misrepresent your insurance. So yes, I do. I call record companies all the time.
Would you say that is going above and beyond? I mean, do you know anybody else that does that in the motor unit?
Talk about going above and beyond. That's me. That's me, who I am as a cop. I am a sergeant in the motor unit, like you said. Well, last year, I myself got first and second place for the number of traffic stops and the number of tickets written. A supervisor outwrote tickets and traffic stops than your working motor guys. That's just who I am. When I'm given a task or something, I go full speed. I just worked the racer details that we had all through there. You ask Crab, look at the number of arrests that a sergeant made I think I made more arrests than any deputy that worked that detail. It's just who I am.
Have you ever contacted private businesses, such as tow companies, funeral escort companies, or any other companies, regarding Mr. Dewitte with the intention of going there to talk about Mr. Dewitte's transgressions, his criminal histories and things like that?
No, part of the investigation was when we would pull these videos, or when we were doing the investigation, we had to, again, for an investigation and all of that, you have to contact these companies to, number one, get their statement, see what they're allowed to do, what they hired them for. We wanted receipts. Like, for example, I'll give you one. I got information from our witness that Jeremy was performing security services for all these people. Well, he can't. That was another part of our investigation. So, of course, I contacted Woodlawn Cemetery, for example. I went there and I said, hey, I'm conducting an investigation at Metro State. I understand they're performing security services for you. Yes, they are. They do all our security for. Whoa, do you have any receipts? Do you have documents? Yes, we do. Can I get them? Yes, thank you. That's part of an investigation, is contacting those people.
Did you relate to them that he didn't have a security license or
Oh, yes.
ability?
Yes.
Do you feel like that's the sheriff's office place?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Why?
Because we work with the community. If I'm dealing with Woodlawn Cemetery, which is a great company, and I'm telling them, hey, he can't perform, he has no license to perform security. And now that you know that, if you continue hiring him, you're committing a crime by hiring him. Okay? It's a crime to hire somebody to do security services.
But you can see where that would interfere, obviously, with Mr. Dewitte's business, right?
Well, he doesn't have a business. He has no business to do security. That's not a business.
But he is attempting to make money. He's attempting to make
Unlawfully, a criminal enterprise.
But is it the sheriff's office place to go to private businesses that are conducting their own transactions between two different clients? Is it the sheriff's office place to interject ourselves into that and tell them, hey, this guy you're doing business with, he doesn't have a license, or he's a terrible guy, or that kind of thing?
Let me put it in context. I think when we're doing an investigation, we're going to these companies and saying, hey, these are records, obviously going to want to know what's going on. Well, he doesn't have a security license. He can't. Yes, it is appropriate. Now, if I was going down the road and I just pulled into Johnny Smith's funeral home and said, hey, I'm just here to tell you that if you ever hire this company in Metro State, you can't. I agree with you there. That never happened. Every contact I ever made with a place of business was to obtain records, was to obtain documents. And yes, it would be normal in that situation to have a discussion with those people and to explain to them what's going on. Yes, it would be normal, very normal.
Okay, did you go to Copart?
No, I never went to Copart.
AATR?
I don't even know who they are.
And DeGespy Funeral Home?
Gatsby, what's that one?
DeGespy?
Oh, the Winter Park. No, I don't know. I never even went there. I only went to the funeral homes that I was dealing with, the security services, and then with I went to the funeral home where we were dealing with the lady that was being illegally recorded, the charge that we filed on Jeremy. I went to that funeral home, which was up in Sanford. Do
you know the name of it?
No, I don't. I went there to get the documents of the pay receipts to show that Jeremy actually did that escort.
Okay. And while you were there, did you relay to them that whatever the company was that...
Well, they knew I was investigating Metro State, yes. And then I went to Pax Villa. Pax Villa is the other funeral home because we went to them because the witness told us that Jeremy was doing security services for them, and I actually came out at the approval. Captain Carpenter actually surveilled them doing the security services, and then John Ramsey and I met with them after that saying you can't have them doing
When you're saying security services, are you talking about an escort?
No, they were using Metro State. They were being paid for security. Like Woodlawn Cemetery says, yes, we provide them security. They're dressed up all in their uniforms, and literally, I know I'm going off topic and I get yelled at for that, but they truly, from what they said, that Jeremy stated that he was allowed to do this, that he was a security company. So so all these people were taken. It's all part of the whole criminal case.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But just to be clear, your testimony is that you believe it's appropriate in the circumstances that you were doing it.
100% yes.
Okay. I wanted to go back to there. There was the insurance thing real quick, only because I just thought of it. The traffic stop in September of 2020 with the two Metro State vehicles.
Yes.
Did you call the insurance company on that stop as well?
No, I wrote them tickets for failure to produce their insurance.
Okay, I just want
I believe I did. Yes.
You don't recall?
I don't. I didn't. What's that?
Contacting the insurance company?
I don't recall the traffic stop. Is what I'm saying. Without looking at the video, I never reviewed this video.
So you contacted them in 2019. You said you contacted
Right.
and then March of 2020,
Right,
and then
right.
also in September of 2020.
Type vehicle that was there. Just see if it's still there.
So, just I guess maybe you didn't review it, but
I didn't. No.
This is you on the phone with the insurance company. You're on hold right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember, but that's what I would normally do in this situation.
Okay.
Yeah. See, that's what I would normally do.
It should be for a Jeremy Dewitte or a Metro State company.
Okay, so it was actually 3 times that you contacted insurance companies, right? So 2019, March of 2020, and September of 2020.
For this investigation, yes.
Okay.
Correct. 859-9580.
And this one this was September of 2020.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's and this is exactly what I do with the wreckers. Because you call the company and they tell you yeah or no.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because you said 2 times.
Well, I didn't even think about that.
Three times
Yeah.
on record.
No,
so.
I didn't even. You're going to have to refresh my memory on that
Okay.
because, like I said, this has been going on.
Okay. I just wanted to get the number of times right. That's all I'm concerned with.
With this, yes, it's something like that. I might have called him 4 times. I don't
All right.
remember.
And so on September 24th, 2019, this was another allegation that was brought forward by Ms. Burton or Mr. Dewitte, I believe both, that you were on their property, or at a business on September 24th, 2019. They sent still images, you provided a video, and there's body camera view there. What were you doing there that day?
Well, that's what I tried to go into earlier. That's the first time we met Tony Constantini. Tony had called John Allen with Windermere about what he believed was a crime that Jeremy's renting property from, all this stuff. So John Allen had him call me. He called me. He said, I need to meet with you. I've got information about Metro State. So we're like, okay. So we go up there, we pull in, and what we were looking at, I heard at that time, again, this is early in the investigation, that Jeremy was also starting an ambulance company involving Michael Breen. So when we pull in, there's the ambulances right there. I'm like, holy crap. Right there's the ambulance. So anyways, we were talking about that. So anyways, Tony Constantini talks to John. He's giving John all this paperwork, and he alleges that he gave some money to Jeremy. Like I said, I don't know much about the case. All I know is he loaned Jeremy some money and whatever. So during that time, it's funny because when we came on the property, all the lights were on in the property. It's daytime. All the floodlights, everything was on. So then Tony says, and he locked me out of my office. Let me show you. He locked me out of my office. And I'm like, all right. So John stayed over at the ambulance. I guess he was reviewing all the documents. I didn't get involved in any of that document stuff. So Tony walks me around to where the door is, and he says, see, he locked the door, and he shows me the new lock on the door. And he goes, He goes, all my stuff's in there. Jeremy rents this out from me. It's the building where all his motorcycles were stored. He goes, but I just let him use my office. We share my office, and he just changed the lock, and I can't get in. He goes, the electrical panel's in there to turn off the lights. And Tony sells cars. He goes, all my titles are in there. Everything's in there. And so I told him, I said, well, you can kick the door in then. You're the property owner. He locked you out of the office. Kick the door in, or if you don't want to damage the door, call a locksmith. So he goes, well,
So he was the property owner?
yes, he was the property owner.
And and you were called to be there?
Yes, he
Okay.
called us. Yes.
Okay. So then you there's a still shot of you looking in a window.
Yes.
Did you open the window?
No.
Who opened the window?
Tony did. So Tony said, let me show you where the boxes are. So we walk around to the other side to the window. Tony goes up the window, slides the window open, and I look in, and he goes, there's the box. He was talking about the electrical panel, showing me where the electrical panel is for the lights, and then he was explaining to where the titles are, and there's the box of the titles, and I'm looking at it, and I see the electrical panel. I see his boxes, what he's referring to as titles. But then what caught my attention is like I said, I made a copy for you. In his office, also, Jeremy had a whiteboard just like the one behind me, and written on it was all this 3/16/1974 state statute. And I thought it was really funny that he even got the statue there to tell him what he can do, but he doesn't abide by it. So I looked at it for a while, and I was like, take a picture of it, and then that was it.
Were you outside?
Yeah, I'm outside. You can't get inside. There's bars on the window.
Did Mr. Constantine give you the impression that he had a lawful right to that?
Oh, absolutely. He was the property owner.
So did you go inside at all?
No, not at all.
Did you conduct any type of search that day?
No, you couldn't get in.
You were invited to the property by Mr. Constantine?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then I want to move on to October 30th. Mr. Dewitte gets arrested for the search warrant. After his arrest, he alleges that he was on the phone in jail. He was in jail, and he was talking to his wife. Those jail tapes were provided to you, where his wife starts telling him that the phone was pinging about the business. Did you go into and access Mr. Dewitte's cell phone after his arrest?
No, and as I said, I think when we were here interviewing, I told you after listening to all Jeremy's claims that all these claims would have been debunked if his attorney would have just done a deposition at this point and has failed
Right,
to.
but I'm just asking, did you go into the phone?
No,
after the
never
arrest?
went into his phone.
Did Corporal Ramsey go into the phone?
No, Corporal Ramsey did not go into the phone.
Did you have a warrant for the cell phone at that time?
No, we did not have a warrant.
Was the phone with you when you went to the business?
I
for the arrest?
never went to the business. I was working off duty
Did Corporal Ramsey go to the business?
Yes, at my direction. Because what he did is after he interviewed Jeremy's wife, I said, a guy with Sandy said, Ramsey got some additional information for the warrant because Jeremy had told him that all the videos and evidence are on his computers and everything at the office. So I'm rewriting a warrant to go after all these videos and everything. And meanwhile, I'm off duty at Halloween Horror Nights. I'm working there. Michelle will tell you, I sat in the booking room doing the warrant. So I called Ramsey and I said, hey, I need you to go sit at the office and just sit there in the parking lot, guard that building, because we're doing a search warrant. That's normal procedure. So John went from talking to Jeremy's wife straight to Jeremy's office and sat there and waited for us to get the search warrant.
How did you learn of that business address?
First of all, we had two witnesses that were employed with him. I knew the day that he moved from Tony Constantini's property.
Okay, he claims that he hadn't told anybody where the new business was. So
All his employees knew where the new business was.
okay.
And to confirm that day,
Yeah.
before that I got approval from Sandy, like I said, to watch the security aspect, which was before that day. So I went to the Sun Bank that was across the way. I knew Andrew Ross, I knew Adrian Hernandez was performing security, so I sat there and waited. I watched him pull into the office, get in the Metro State cars, and I followed him from that office to Pax Villa. We knew, like I said, also we knew because Tony Constantini followed Jeremy when he was hauling the motorcycles from his property there down to that office. So we knew the day he moved. It had nothing to do with the phones.
Okay. So the employees told you?
Yes.
Okay. There's a video that I provided to you where you're looking at a Metro State vehicle, and I believe it was in March of 2020, where you are you're meeting with two individuals, and they're looking at a car.
Yes.
What was that about?
So as I explained to earlier, what that was Alex Ringwell had called me and didn't want any beef with us.
And who is that? Alex Ringwall. Who is
I haven't seen the video. I'm just going based on my knowledge.
Yeah, but who is that guy?
Okay, Alex Ringwall is one of Jeremy's employees. He was employed with Jeremy at the time. Now, I'm just going off I haven't seen the video because I didn't review a lot of these videos because it would take too long. So I'm just assuming this is what you're talking about. I don't know any other where I was walking around a car with a guy.
Yeah.
It would have been just me and Alex. Is that what's in the video?
It looked like there was another person there.
Another person, like
Yeah.
3?
No, just
2.
two.
Okay.
2 employees of some sort, and then you.
2 employees? I got to see the video. I don't know what you're talking about then. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's Alex
Anyway, I
Ringwell.
met Alex today. He's worked Amber and Purple together.
Oh, I recorded it just for documentation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. That's Alex.
Okay. Okay.
Not an escort, and you have all the purple
So
lights
what was your
going.
purpose in doing that?
So, like I said, before that happened, I wrote him all these tickets. I wrote his employees tickets for the red lights. Alex got with me, like I said earlier, and he wanted no ill will with the sheriff's office. He said, I'm trying to get Jeremy to come in compliance, and I kept saying, that's all we want. He goes, are you willing to work with us on all these tickets? I said, absolutely, I'll work with you anyway. He goes, well, if we change all the lights to purple, like the state statute says, what will you do? I said, if you change them, I said, I'll dismiss the tickets. He goes, will you dismiss everybody's tickets? And I said, yes, I'll dismiss everybody's tickets. Every car that I've given a ticket to for those lights, I'll dismiss them. So
Okay, that's what you were talking about earlier.
Yes, that's what I was talking about earlier. So what he would do is he would change the lights. He would call me, and he showed me that all the lights were changed to purple, and whatever ticket was associated with that vehicle, I dismissed.
Okay, and you documented it just for
Yes,
court
I
purposes?
documented it for
Okay.
court. Yeah.
All right. Just give us 1 second. We're just gonna.
Yeah, I'm gonna
just
use the
a second.
restroom.
Okay. I just have one more question, Jay. What's that?
I figured it's okay, but it's a long day.
one more question.
Yes.
And then we'll conclude. So with regards to the traffic stop and everything we've discussed regarding the March 23rd traffic stop,
This, yeah.
is there anything you would have done differently?
Absolutely not. Matter of fact, I stated earlier in my testimony that if I'd known back then at Blue Jacket Park what I knew to now, I would have arrested Jeremy and all his employees for openly carrying a pepper ball gun, and Jeremy for carrying a concealed one. I would have if I'd known that. But like I said, the directive was, they're allowed to carry pepper ball guns. No, they're not per Florida state statute.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you know about this investigation you'd like to add?
Well, the only thing I would like to add to this investigation, as far as the total of it, you're a supervisor. When you were working the road and a deputy made an arrest and you were reviewing his report and you didn't believe there was probable cause in there, what action would you take?
I'm not the one on
Can't ask him.
answering,
Oh,
answering
okay,
the questions.
okay.
You can pose
I
the
can-
question.
Well, I posed the question that normally as a supervisor, what I would do after reading a report, I would call that deputy and say, hey, I'm reading a report, I don't see any probable cause. Can you meet with me? Can we go over this? How did you come up with this? I'm just curious why, when Austin Moore said he reviewed this 2 hours after the arrest, it was 24 hours after until he actually did the release for Jeremy Dewitte. Why wasn't I called at all? Why wasn't I notified by my chain of command? Why wasn't I notified to go meet with Austin Moore? And Austin and I sit down and Austin go, Keith, I'm reading this, I don't get it. I thought we discussed he's allowed to do this. We could have sat down and I could have showed him everything that I just showed you that I had at that time and said, Austin, I believe you erred. He can't carry. Nobody can carry a pepper ball gun. But secondly, he can't even carry a pepper ball concealed like he's carrying it. And this is how I came up with it, and here's my case law. I think we would have been much further ahead back then if we'd have done it that way like we normally do it on the road. But that wasn't done. That wasn't 24 hours went by before Jeremy was ever unarrested. They had plenty of time to get with me and to find out how I came up with the probable cause. That's our staff attorney's job. He should have gotten with me and not happen what happened. Because then if he didn't agree with the charge of carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon, then I said, okay, Austin, then if you don't agree with that, then I'm going to charge him with just the misdemeanor crime. How's that? Okay, but he is in violation of the law no matter how you look at it. That never happened. Okay. The only other thing I would like to add is the fact that after this interview, obviously you guys know now, like I've said, my position on what should have happened with Austin Moore, and my position that if Jeremy would have just done a deposition or his attorney would have done, all his stuff would have been debunked because, but anyways, now that we know that I did not make an unlawful arrest, there was no ill will, there was no illegal searching of the phones or his officers or anything like that. Now that we all know that, I would request that the agency reinstate me full service duty and be reinstated back to motors. I know that's not yours, but I just want to put it on the record that we now know that my arrest was not lawful.
Okay.
It was not unlawful.
All right. You have anything? Okay. The current time is 4:46 p.m. and that concludes the interview.
Okay.
Let us sort through these.
If you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to like the video, Peanut Butter Cup.